Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto becomes a Vasto Lord Bleach. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by VFSNAKE and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. What was there to say about Ulquiorra Schiffer? Not much unless you knew him. Knew of his past life before his death and becoming a hollow Vasto Lord class to eventually become a member of the Espada. Of being ranked the fourth strongest among them with a calculating mind and held no emotions on his face to give away anything he might have felt. Even Aizen didn't know about his past, or if he did kept it to himself. The road captain class Shinigami was like that in many aspects. Always knowing when to talk to someone about something, but never anything too personal, and made sure such secrets stayed between specific parties involved with no one else knowing unless he wanted them to know. Hey Ulquiorra. Should I kill this one too? Is this one trash? It doesn't matter Yami. They are all trash to me. Even the ones Lord Aizen is interested in are trash. Just interesting trash that may hold some form of value to him. Besides, we have more pressing business to attend to than deal with the likes of these humans. In truth, Ulquiorra hated humans deep within his very being, though he'd never show it, and thus no one could ask why he did. Why did he hate humans? Why did he call them trash? No one knew except for Ulquiorra. Though even he kept those reasons locked away within the deep parts of his mind where they belonged and to never to resurface again. Flashback back then. One Uzumaki Naruto was chained to a wall while sitting on a crude chair of sorts with seals on it and himself that prevented the use of chakra. It was a prison cell designed to hold S-class criminals of the highest level with no means to escape, and right now the blonde hero of Konoha was here. Or rather Naruto should have been a hero of Konoha. Sadly, that was not the case, and to make it worse the people he once trusted had put him here. It had happened after the Uchiha had been recovered during his traitorous backstabbing and leaving Konoha for Orochimaru with a sound 4 on the promise of more power. Naruto had been ordered to use excessive force to bring back Sasuke if the Uchiha had in fact resisted, and the boy did in fact resist. However, upon returning home victorious, the Uzumaki blonde found himself restrained, thrown away in the cell, and visited only by the Hokage and his so-called sensei Haddock Kakashi. Neither of them had anything nice to say to him. Damn brat. How dare you do this to the Uchiha? Do you know how badly his body is damaged? Damn near killed him. Said Tsunade looking infuriated at the blonde. No more than he tried to do to me. Or did the scars of the Chidori become suddenly invisible to your eyes? Said Naruto, who got a backhanded fist to his face for his trouble, and while the Hokage had restrained from using her strength it still hurt. I don't care about your injuries brat. You are a Jinchuriki. You're expendable. An asset meant to be used and then thrown away when there was no further use for something like you, said Tsunade glaring at the boy, who just smiled despite the bruise on his face and blood running down the side of his mouth. One or two of his teeth felt loose. So that's how it is huh? Throwing me away like a broken weapon huh? I can't help but wonder, what would your family think of you now and if any of them would spit in your face? Said Naruto before being hit with another blow to his face that did knock out a few of his teeth. Shut your mouth brat. I've had enough of listening to the what would my family do in my place speeches trash like you. You disgust me. Said Tsunade seeing Naruto still trying to keep that grin on his face. So what happens to me now Hokage-sama? I stay here the rest of my natural life? Or am I going to die on your orders just to appease the masses? Said Naruto giving her the I don't give a damn look that made the woman even more infuriated. That's being decided right now, but chances are you will die and I'm going to see that it's extremely painful, said Tsunade before leaving the room. Then Kakashi came in a few days later. Haven't touched your food I see, said Kakashi seeing the so-called food made normal garbage look like a feast fit for a king. Would you eat it in my position? It's healthier for me to just starve. Why are you here Haddock? My life is more enjoyable without you in it, said Naruto seeing the man's one-eye frown at him. I'm here to let you know your punishment has been decided by the Hokage. You are to be killed publicly in the execution square in front of everyone and being branded as a traitor to the Leaf for hurting the Uchiha, said Kakashi seeing Naruto nodding with no surprise on his face. I already knew that. Now tell me something I don't know, said Naruto seeing Kakashi's eye narrow again. Uchiha Sasuke is going to kill you himself in order to get the next stage of the Sharingan to further ensure he stays loyal to the village, said Kakashi, seeing Naruto think about it for a second before letting out a cruel laugh, which shocked the Jounin, and the man now wondered if the boy had lost what was left of his mind. That's one hell of a joke you just told Haddock. Sasuke getting the next level of his oh so precious Sharingan, said Naruto laughing some more before Kakashi grabbed him by the throat and squeezed tightly. It's not a joke demon brat. You will give Sasuke the means to have the next level or I will make sure you feel my wrath even in death. Said Kakashi before slamming the boy's head back against the wall and made Naruto see stars. Careful Haddock. If you kill me before my official execution, you're going to deny Sasuke his wish and ruin things for everyone," said Naruto, seeing Kakashi trying to keep what short fuse of a temper he had in check. "Just do us all a favor, Naruto, with some dignity. At least that way you can remove some of the stain you put on the village." "Considering what you are," said Kakashi before leaving the room, but not before Naruto said one last thing and made the Jounin freeze in place. "What I am, Haddock, is a boy scorned for what I have inside of me and nothing more. You, on the other hand, my so-called sensei, are trash. In fact, according to the so-called code you preach to Team 7 about, you along with everyone in Konoha currently dancing to the tune of Those on High are worse than trash, and when you die hell awaits you with all the demons there waiting to take a piece out of your ass," said Naruto, laughing at the Jounin, who only glared at him and then walked away. And trying to ignore Naruto's cruel laugh that echoed into the hall. Then the day of his execution came. The people in the village came to the execution square, trying to see the demon brat finally die, and at the hands of the Uchiha no less. Naruto inwardly joked to the Kyuubi that if Tsunade was really smart, she'd sell tickets to this and make a fortune to pay off her debts owed. The Kyuubi laughed at the joke before telling the boy how it was an honor to die in the body of someone with a spine and not cowering in the face of death. "I'm going to miss our conversations, kid," said Kyuubi, while the boy just smiled and ended their mental link with each other. "Time to die, loser. Don't worry though, as your death will bring me one step closer to achieving my goal of killing Itachi and one day becoming Hokage. Wasn't that your dream? I hope you don't mind if I take that too," said Sasuke, grinning at Naruto as he got his Chidori ready and the crowd cheering for the Uchiha to kill the blonde. "Sasuke, you can have the dream, as I'd rather be dead than be Hokage of these idiots, and I'd rather be dead than live another minute seeing your ugly duck-butted hairstyle with your belief that everyone is inferior to you. So get it over with, you bastard. Unless of course you were afraid," said Naruto, knowing how to bait the Uchiha by attacking the boy's ego. "I'll show you who's afraid," said Sasuke before running right at Naruto and slammed the Chidori into Naruto's chest that pierced the boy's heart while looking the blonde right in the eye. "One last thing before I die, team. You told me in our fight that in order to achieve the power you wanted, your best friend has to die, and you said I was your best friend. Well, let me give you some news to this grand plan of yours in getting those eyes through my death, team. I'm not your best friend. I never was. You called me loser and nothing and basically claimed I'm inferior to you. Maybe I am all those things, but it is through those things that I deny you the means to achieve those eyes and laugh at your lost opportunity to gain what you've wanted from the start," said Naruto, laughing at the shocked look on the Uchiha's face and waited until death took him to see Sasuke had not acquired the next level of the Sharingan. In his last act in living and into death, Uzumaki Naruto had won against Uchiha Sasuke. Then all went dark. And as time passed, deep within the dark abyss of Wako Mundo, one Ulquiorra Schiffer was born in the form of a Vasto Lorde and soon came into the service of Sasuke Aizen's army when turned into an Arrancar. In his time serving in Aizen's army, Ulquiorra had found more purpose in being an Espada than he ever did being alive and human back during the days of being Uzumaki Naruto. In fact, his time as an Espada had made him feel humans were horrible creatures and were nothing more than trash that should be disposed of before they stink up the world they lived in. How that happened was mostly up to him so long as it didn't conflict with Aizen's own orders. "What would you have me say? Don't worry, I'm sure he's still alive." "Ridiculous. I am not here to comfort you. I don't understand why are you so fixated on life and death. At any rate, your friends will soon be annihilated. So what if that's one step closer? They should have seen this coming from the start. If they couldn't see it coming, the fault lies in their own foolishness. Laughing them off as a group of idiots would be sufficient. Why can't you do that? If it were me and my friends entered Wako Mundo without first gauging their strength, I'd be infuriated by their stupidity." Slap. It was when Inoue Orihime slapped him that something inside of the Espada stirred long dormant within him. For a moment, a different face appeared where the girls had been, and it made the Arrancar frown inside as to who it was. She seemed familiar to him, but it never could truly surface within his mind, and Ulquiorra wondered who the other girl was that he saw. His wonder lasted for a span of a few seconds. It was immaterial to the here and now. Then the fights with Kurosaki Ichigo came. The Shinigami had impressed Ulquiorra to an extent. A sense of amusement, if you will, as the boy kept rising to fight him and not giving up. Something to do with the human's heart, as he often heard. Absurd, really. Even if Ichigo reminded the Arrancar of a time long ago when another boy with similar spiky hair, similar hair color and sheer determination in his eyes to try taking on stronger people than himself regardless of the odds. That part of the Espada's memories came and went with the wind that blew through Wako Mundo while fighting the boy. Maybe that was why he struck Ichigo in the chest the first time with his hand directly into his heart. Was it to cement some form of respect? Brotherhood that the two would now share after the boy lost to him? It didn't matter. What mattered was the boy met his end or lived to never oppose him or Aizen ever again. Either way it didn't matter to the number 4 in rank Espada. And then that girl interfered. Twice. It was the second time Ulquiorra fought Ichigo did his memories of the past resurfaced, seeing himself in Ichigo when the Espada had been alive, becoming what he was never allowed by those he deemed trash in his past life, and once again saw a girl's face replace Orihim's own. Memories of that girl soon surfaced of a girl his age, back when he was still human, seeing her smile, blushing, and not hating him like the others did. I see. This. Yes. This thing in my hand is the heart. It was then Ulquiorra finally began to understand what the heart was. Even if he was too little too late to enjoy it. Or so he thought. Welcome Ulquiorra Schiffer, said a powerful voice from behind the Espada, making the ranker turn to see a glowing white entity that screamed power. It made Aizen seem like a low-class hollow in comparison. You're Kami, said Ulquiorra since he felt it could be no other. Correct. I have brought you here before me with an offer, said Kami seeing the pale-skinned Espada look at him with a raised eyebrow. An offer? Interesting. Please continue, said Ulquiorra since he didn't expect this at all. I know of your past, young one. I know who you were before becoming this form that now stands in front of me. I wish to offer you the chance to return to your world you once called home, said Kami seeing Ulquiorra narrow his eyes slightly before looking away from the deity. No. I decline. There is nothing in that world I could want. I have long since let go of my connection to that place and that world. I could care less if the world was destroyed and the trash there choked on their own blood. They deserve anything bad that happens to them, said Ulquiorra before walking away in the hopes Kami would just send him into hell or someplace where the Espada could be away from such things. Only to find himself staring at one of the secret shrines at the Hyuga compound, where members of the clan go to mourn those they love whether they be friend, family, and or lover lost due to tragic circumstances. In front of this particular shrine was a woman with long dark cascading hair, wearing a bulky jacket and pants of light purple color. The woman's back was to him with her head down, but in doing so, it allowed the Espada's eyes to widen at the side of the picture and then look at the woman praying. Naruto-kun, I miss you so much. Every day I pray you are happy. That you are in heaven with your family. Knowing that despite everything this village has done to you, the life on the other side hasn't been cruel and can be at peace, knowing no one can cause you any more harm. I only wish that I had been able to visit you those 3 years ago, if only for a second to tell you how I felt. How despite everyone hating you for the Kyuubi, I wasn't like them, and how I loved you. I still do love you. No matter what went wrong, you overcame the odds and beat everyone at their own game. Uchiha Sasuke is still trying to find a way to get the next level of the Sharingan in order to beat his brother and curses you to this day in denying him. My father wishes me to marry soon, but I told him there is only one man I wish to marry, to have children, to grow old with, and that person is dead. He wasn't amused, and something tells me my father wishes to change my views on things when it comes to love. I don't know how long it will be before I can see you again Naruto-kun, but I can wait, and when the time comes to join you on the other side will finally tell you how I feel. Believe it. Said Hinata as she finished her prayer and quickly put the picture of the boy away, knowing that no one could see it since no one in the village was left that loved Naruto anymore. You were not meant to die that day. A mistake on my part, which is why I am giving you this chance to regain some of what was taken from your life and a chance to fix your broken world, said Kami, seeing Ulquiorra stare at Hinata's form, walking away and hiding the picture inside the bulky jacket. If I go back, what will change about me? Said Ulquiorra seeing Kami smiling back at him for at least considering the offer. You will be alive. Your original body has long since been lost so you must remain in your ranker body. However, you will be alive again, said Kami seeing the Espada put his hand to where his heart would be if it wasn't for the hole there that signified he was a hollow. Send me back then. I just hope you understand people will die at my hands should I wish to kill them, said Ulquiorra seeing Kami nod. I don't expect you to turn into a pacifist Ulquiorra, said Kami seeing the Espada nod his head and had an almost amused smile on his face. So I'm coming home. Homicing thought Ulquiorra before he was consumed in a bright light and the next thing the Espada knew was back in the elemental countries. Oh yes. Things would become amusing very soon. Chapter 2 Making a statement. Ulquiorra looked at the vast desert of wind country that led to Suna as he felt it was the opposite of Hueco Mundo in many aspects and yet the same in others. The cruel winds, sand everywhere, and the many different creatures that had long since learned to survive the harsh environmental hazards it held for many years. The former Espada didn't care for it though, as he had no interest in any of these things or their similarities to the cold dark realm of the hollow world. The first thing Ulquiorra did upon finding himself here in the elemental countries was to see if all his powers were indeed still with him and did some discreet testing. Everything he had been in terms of being an Arrancar, much less an espada, was still intact and had used it in terms of getting around the different places of the world using Sonido. It was almost amusing to see the looks people gave him in cities and in towns while making sure the hole still in his chest kept out of sight. The last thing Ulquiorra wanted was for some kind of unnecessary panic attack from some moron humans who then ran to some ninja and brought different people onto his back. Not yet. During his time wandering for the past few weeks, Ulquiorra Schiffer saw that not much had changed in this world, which wasn't really a surprise since it was roughly over 3 years to the several hundred that took place in Hueco Mundo, and realized time worked with significant difference. Again, the former Espada didn't care about that as he had no real interest in time and relativity to the different realms of the universe. And now here he was, just a few hundred feet away from Suna, and already there was a smell in the air of humans being the pathetic trash she had always called them in the past. Of course, the Arrancar knew it wasn't anyone from Suna, as he knew Gaara would never let anyone boss him around and sink the village if they tried, since the sand here was one big hammer for Gaara to swing should he get pissed off. Of that, Ulquiorra remembered that much about the one-tailed Jinchuriki and knew if there was one place he should go to see a long-lost friend, it was Suna. So why did he get this feeling something bad had just happened to Gaara? Using Sonido once again to further decrease the gap between himself to Suna, the former member of the Espada, found that the village had just recently been attacked, as indicated by the tall-tale signs of smoke seen from several places, and stopped when he was soon surrounded by Suna shinobi. Each of them armed, looking at him suspiciously, knowing he could be an enemy, as they had never seen someone like him before in terms of his choice of clothing, complexion, and overall form. "Identify yourself," said a Suna shinobi to Ulquiorra's right. "I'm here to see Sabaku no Gaara. Judging by the smoke behind your walls, when I was traveling here I came at a bad time," said Ulquiorra before he looked behind the Suna shinobi in front of him to see Hada Kakashi, Uchiha Sasuke, Haruno Sakura, and some pale-skinned boy that could almost rival the Arrancar himself. But the exception of the fake smile, of course. "Who are you?" said Sakura as she saw Ulquiorra just stare at her with his unreadable face and saw Sasuke out of the corner of her eyes narrow them at the former Espada, since his face looked similar to Itachi in terms of being emotionless. "My name is Ulquiorra Schiffer. I came to this village to speak to Sabaku no Gaara. What has happened here?" said Ulquiorra as he kept the tugging feeling in the back of his mind to obliterate the four-leaf shinobi from existence and make himself a target. "The Kazukiage has been kidnapped by the Akatsuki. We're here to help save Gaara at the request of his siblings, since they need superior shinobi to do what they clearly can't do themselves," said Sasuke with a smirk in hopes of impressing this man before them and to make himself known to foreigners entering Suna. "So Gaara is the Kazukiage now, huh? I must congratulate my old friend when I save him myself," said Ulquiorra before turning around, having already sensed where the Akatsuki members had taken Gaara. "Wait. You said you were friends with him? Since when?" said Tamari, having walked in on their conversation. "Some time ago. It's been a while and I'm sure he doesn't recognize me. However, I know after we talk, he'll recall who I am and embrace me in friendship as I did so long ago with him," said Ulquiorra, and walking away with his hands in his pockets like he always did before vanishing from sight. "What kind of jutsu was that?" said Sakura while looking at Kakashi and saw he was also confused since he had never seen anything like it either. Sasuke was seething at not being able to use his Sharingan to copy it. "We'll find out more about him later. Come on you three. We need to track down the two Akatsuki members and save Gaara before that new guy does," said Kakashi as he felt a cold shivering sensation crawl up his spine and the Jounin felt like he had just missed something important. But what was it? With Ulquiorra. It wasn't hard for the Arrancar to find the two Akatsuki members and their little hideaway. They had to conduct whatever it is they were doing in the sealed area with Gaara. In all honesty, Ulquiorra didn't care what they did so long as it was stopped before it was even started and found the cave that the two were in with Gaara with seals on the boulder of a door to block any unwanted guests from stopping them. An unwanted guest was exactly the kind of person Ulquiorra was at the moment, as he had made it a profession during his time serving Aizen, and like any unwanted guest he did what anyone in his position would do. He grabbed the boulder with the seals on it and pulled it out of its position with it flying high into the air easily, as someone would throw a kid's toy ball with the greatest of ease. The two members of the Akatsuki looked up in shock, as did the other members of the Akatsuki from their assigned projections, to see the Arrancar entering the natural cave of a room and saw Gaara on the ground with his demon about to be extracted. "And who the hell are you? Do you know him, Sasori?" said Deidara as he glared at the Arrancar and wondered if this guy was Itachi's twin. The two had the same damn stare. "My name is unimportant. I don't give out things like that to trash. I am here to retrieve Sabaku no Gaara from your care. Nothing more," said Ulquiorra, while the hunched over one named Sasori laughed like he was joking. "Do you realize who we are? How strong the two of us in this room here are," said the hunched-over one named Sasori with ear anchor simply staring at them unimpressed. "You seem to be under the impression that I care or that I should fear you for your skills. Why is it that human trash like you has this belief that you are better than everyone else? It seems to be something that I have yet to truly understand when it comes to the more arrogant side of your species. Though in all honesty, I would rather kill such pathetic pieces of trash than try to understand them and remove the problem altogether," said Ulquiorra, seeing the shadowy members of the Akatsuki look at him like he had grown two heads. "What the fuck are you talking about?" said one of the shadowy projections. "As I said before, I don't give out things like that to trash, and I intend to kill anyone that stands in my way of retrieving Sabaku no Gara," said Ulquiorra, walking further into the room before suddenly appearing to Sasori and struck the man in the neck with enough force to knock the head clean off. But the man inside of the puppet to come out while the body Sasori was just in fell over ironically like a puppet with its strings cut. How did he move that fast? Thought Dodara while Ulquiorra picked up Gara and then quickly appeared near the entrance exit. "Dodara. Sasori. Stop him now," said the shadowed projection that was in the middle of the others while Sasori revealed his puppets and Dodara was making bombs with the mouths in his hands. "Right. Prepare to go boom," said Dodara grinning evilly at Ulquiorra while the former Espada just raised his right hand's index finger with a small ball of green energy forming there, much to the surprise of the Akatsuki members watching this. "Zero," said Ulquiorra simply before firing his attack at them, and it was only through substitution did the two manage to escape. Using Sanito to once more land on solid sandy ground, Ulquiorra put Gara down just before moving his head slightly to dodge the blade aimed at his head from one of the many puppets Sasori had summoned to aid him in battle. To the Aranker's right, Dodara was forming his explosives into shapes and waiting for the right time to strike, knowing that Gara could not be harmed in order to extract the demon from the young Kazukiage. "I fool," said Sasori as his small army of puppets moved to either kill Ulquiorra or move him away from Gara so Dodara could blow the man up. "I don't take request from trash like you," said Ulquiorra before blanketing the area with a small fraction of his spiritual pressure to freeze them both in place as the former Espada disappeared from the puppet master's sight only to appear behind him and take his head clean off with one swipe of his hand. And reveal the man was in fact a living puppet. "My turn," said Dodara now that the strange invisible weight was off of him while high in the sky on his clay bird and saw just as he was about to unleash them, saw Ulquiorra was nowhere to be found. "Yes. It is," said Ulquiorra making Dodara turn around and was shocked beyond belief to see the Aranker standing on his clay bird, pointing his index finger once again at him with a green ball of energy there once more. "Oh crap," thought Dodara while staring at his death. "Zero," said Ulquiorra before firing and this time hit dead on. When Ulquiorra no longer sensed the blonde-haired Akatsuki member, he descended to the ground and stood over Sabaku no Gara's form. Reaching down, he checked for a pulse and found one on his long-lost friend before turning to see Leaf Shinobi, along with an elderly woman that was clearly a native of Suna. "You," said Sakura pointing an accusing finger at Ulquiorra, who just ignored her and made the pink-haired Kunoichi even angrier. The Aranker remained silent at her dramatic pointing while watching the elderly woman check on Gara, a concerned yet guilty look in her eyes, and knew she had some kind of hand in the Kazukiage's life and growing up. Turning away from her, the Aranker saw the Leaf Shinobi were itching for a fight and Sasuke had wanted to get answers about the man's abilities. Ulquiorra easily deduced it was to get more power in order to kill Itachi, which the Aranker could care less about and began walking away. "I thought you wanted to talk to Gara," said Kakashi calmly, while the pale man just stopped to look at him with the wind blowing his white trench coat in an intimidating fashion. "I do and I will. Just not around trash from the Leaf," said Ulquiorra seeing Sasuke and Sakura draw some kunai while preparing for a fight. "Take that back," said Sakura in a demanding screeching tone. "Why should I? It's the truth," said Ulquiorra seeing Sasuke activate his Sharingan and Kakashi scowling at him. "Careful who you insult, Ulquiorra-san. Doing so to a Leaf Shinobi is not good for your health," said Kakashi in an authoritative voice, while Ulquiorra himself just looked at him with his usual unreadable face. "This is not your country, Leaf Shinobi. I can insult you here in this one all I want. If you have a problem with hearing the truth in my words, I suggest you leave this place and do not act superior to your betters," said Ulquiorra seeing the Jounin narrow his eye at him. "What did you say, loser?" said Sasuke before going through hand signs for a fire jutsu. "Sasuke, don't. This guy just took down 2 S-class missing nin and doesn't even look winded in the slightest," said Kakashi as he saw Lady Chiyo still hovering protectively over Gara and knew the Kazukiage would awaken soon. "You. The one responsible for saving Gara. It's clear to me that you have some form of speed ability that surpasses anyone here. Can you take him back to Suna?" said Chio, as it was the only explanation for Gaara being successfully rescued from the Akatsuki, and for some reason Shukaku was not in the mood to possess him. It was almost as if Shukaku knew something was here, near Gaara with far more power than itself, and didn't wish to provoke that entity. Of course, said Ulquiorra while giving nothing away in his voice before picking up Gaara, as he didn't want to be around these four-leaf shinobi anymore, then he had to for the second time today, and was gone a second later. The Hokage will not approve of you trusting the Kazekage to a stranger over us, Lady Chio, said Kakashi seeing the old woman glare at him. I do not serve the Hokage of Konoha. I serve the Kazekage, said Chio before heading back to Suna with the others following behind her. Suna moments later. Damari was happy to see her brother was alive despite being unconscious, as Ulquiorra Schiffer placed Gaara on the hospital bed and walked over to the window with his usual emotionless face giving nothing away. As he looked out the window, the Rancor was thinking about many things that filled his mind in regards to the leaf, the Akatsuki, and how to handle them now that he had made an enemy of the latter of the two. Thank you for saving Gaara, said Tamari at last before bowing slightly in front of him just as Gaara started to stir. Where am I? Said Gaara looking at his sister apparently talking to the dark-haired pale-skinned stranger with green eyes. And Suna's hospital. This man here saved you from the Akatsuki, said Tamari smiling at Gaara and sat down next to him. Who is he? Said Gaara seeing Tamari's smile turn into a frown. You don't know. He said you were friends, said Tamari turning to see Ulquiorra not even looking back at them. I do not know him, Tamari. I have never seen him before now, said Gaara, which made Tamari's eyes widen in shock, grab her iron fan next to the bed, and went into a defensive stance to protect her brother. Who are you? Said Tamari with a hardened gaze at the Rancor. A friend, said Ulquiorra like it was the most simplest thing in the world. You're lying. Said Tamari seeing Ulquiorra turn his head slightly to look at her. Am I? How? Said Ulquiorra before turning fully to face her. Gaara has never seen you until now, said Tamari, while Gaara looked at the Rancor with calculating eyes. I see. You seem to be misinformed on some things. Gaara has never seen this version of myself until now. That much is true. However, we did meet at 1.3 years ago, in the Leaf Village during the events of the Chunin exams, and was the first person to ever defeat you in combat, said Ulquiorra, seeing Gaara's eyes widen in shock, and so did Tamari's at his words. It can't be. Uzumaki Naruto died at the hands of Uchiha Sasuke. You look nothing like Uzumaki Naruto, said Gaara, as he had been so angry with Konoha, but politics at the time had demanded the now Kazekage keep the newly remade alliance with the Leaf and not break it once more. Yes I know, said Ulquiorra seeing Tamari was still on guard against him. Not that she could hurt him. Prove to me you're Uzumaki Naruto, said Gaara seeing the Rancor just look at them for a moment before opening up his white trench coat and parting it to reveal the hole where his heart had been. This should suffice, said Ulquiorra seeing the surprise of their faces of seeing a hole in his body that went all the way through and the fact he was walking around because of it. What about the past? Tell us something only we would know, said Tamari, as she still wanted more proof and a hole in the chest wouldn't cut it. I summoned the boss Toad summons by the name of Gamabunta to help combat you in your one-tailed state, said Ulquiorra, seeing Gaara nod slowly, since no one really knew about that. I see. You are him, said Gaara without a doubt in his voice with Tamari putting her fan away seconds later, though she was still on edge. So it now? Said Tamari seeing the man formerly Uzumaki Naruto not answer and head for the door before stopping. Whatever alliance you have with the Leaf, I suggest you terminate it immediately and seek the means for this village to stand on its own 2 feet without them for support. Do you really want to stay allies with a village that betrayed me, Gaara? Betrayed me for the betrayer I was sent to bring back. Said Ulquiorra seeing Gaara narrow his eyes and knew the memory of that moment 3 years ago burned forever in the Kazekige's brain. No. I don't. The Wind Daimyo will not be happy if we try to, said Gaara seeing his old friend nod once. If that's the case, tell him of the Leaf's way of treating Jinchuriki for accomplishing their missions and the truth they demand you keep secret 3 years ago about my death. See how responsive he'll be then, said Ulquiorra before leaving the room. Within the hour, the Leaf Shinobi had returned to see Gaara was sitting up in his bed and appeared to be deep in thought about something. When Kakashi tried to greet the young Kazekage, but the instant the Jounin did, the red-haired man glared intensely at them in a way too among the group of Leaf hadn't seen in 3 years, and it was still frightening then as it was now. Is something wrong, Kazekage-sama? Said Kakashi seeing the intense look from Gaara. Yes. Tell your Hokage that the alliance between our villages is now over, said Gaara seeing the shock on their faces. What? Why? Said Sakura seeing Tamari stand up now and put a hand on her hip. Does he need a reason, Pinky? You have 6 hours to get out of Suna before we declare you hostile and throw your asses in prison for interrogation, said Tamari seeing the girl glare at him. How dare you? Do you realize the consequences that will happen between our villages for threatening me? And Uchiha elite. We'll go to war," said Sasuke, seeing Temari smirk at him. "Bring it. You think the Wind Daimyo will be so friendly with yours after we tell him a few things about your village you demanded we kept secret?" "Hardly," said Temari, as she saw them go pale and wide-eyed at the implication of what particular secret that would be exposed. "And what brought about this sudden spark of courage?" said Kakashi, seeing Gaara's eyes narrow and killer intent fill the room. "Uzumaki Naruto's memory and your dishonoring of it," said Gaara in an icy tone that made Kakashi once again feel the shiver that ran up his spine at something being amiss. "What? That loser? You're weeping still over him?" said Sasuke before the killer intent in the room became oppressively thick and Gaara was only letting them live due to his weakened condition. "Get out of Suna. Get out or I will kill you," said Gaara with his tone of voice and killer intent, proving he intended to carry out the threat. Regardless of how weak he was feeling right now. "You're going to regret this," said Sakura before they left. "Not likely," said Temari, as she knew her brother well and knew that Naruto had been his first real friend who was taken away from him. Gaara had never gotten over the loss and had to play nice with the leaf then due to all the things happening around them. Now there was no need to play nice, there was no need to be civil with those that turned his stomach and there was no need to honor an alliance with a village that had no honor. Chapter 3 Sending a Message. "The Kazekage did what?" yelled Tsunade to Kakashi's team after they gave their report about the incident in Suna with the Akatsuki and the newcomer that saved the Kazekage. "The Kazekage has declared the alliance Suna has with the Leaf Village is over Hokage-sama. When we asked why, he claimed to be doing it in the memory of Uzumaki Naruto and then blasted us with killer intent to further prove to us that he means business," said Kakashi, seeing the woman narrow her eyes at him. "And what of this newcomer? This Ulquiorra Schiffer?" said Tsunade, seeing Kakashi not meet her eyes for a second to gather his thoughts. "It's hard to say where he stands in all of this. There's more than a good chance he had a hand in the Kazekige's decision to cancel the alliance with the Leaf, but his reason for even saving Sabaku no Gaara is still a mystery and the story he gave when arriving at Suna's gates doesn't make sense either," said Kakashi, seeing Tsunade nod at that. "That's true. We know for a fact Gaara didn't have friends growing up. His siblings don't count either. So who is this person that claims to be Gaara's friend?" said Tsunade as she leans back in her chair deep in thought and saw Kakashi didn't have the slightest clue. "Whoever he is, it's clear the man is dangerous and should be approached with extreme caution," said Kakashi, knowing anyone with the power to take down 2 S-class missing nin was someone to be think twice about fighting. "I'll get Jiraiya on it. If anyone can find information about this man, it's him." "Dismissed," said Tsunade, seeing the team leave and Jiraiya appeared seconds after they were gone. "I'm way ahead of you, Tsunade Haim. This guy has made a lot of noise when he killed 2 members of the Akatsuki and everyone is trying to find out everything there is to know about him. You. Me. The leader of the Akatsuki. Even Orochimaru is looking for dirt on him," said Jiraiya before getting off the window and sat in the chair opposite of Tsunade. "And what did you and they find out?" said Tsunade, seeing Jiraiya slouch in defeat. "Nothing. Absolutely nothing," said Jiraiya, seeing Tsunade's surprise. "Nothing? Nothing at all?" said Tsunade, seeing Jiraiya nod. "Aside from the fact this guy is a friend of Sabaku no Gaara, there is not a single piece of information on this Ulquiorra Schiffer and you know how dangerous a person is if you don't know anything about them when it comes to our profession," said Jiraiya, seeing the woman nod, since having information was a shinobi's greatest asset and the lack of it was a means to be destroyed. "So it's like this guy dropped right out of the sky. This guy is practically a free agent and any village that recruits him will become significantly more powerful," said Tsunade, as she knew there were lone wolf cells throughout the elemental countries and were on occasion recruited to serve different villages. This Ulquiorra Schiffer could be one of them and could bring a lot to the table of the village he served. "I don't think he's interested in joining a shinobi village. He could have joined Suna but didn't all the same and just left without so much as asking, much less hearing an offer," said Jiraiya, seeing Tsunade consider this and agreed with his assessment of that fact. "Still, there is always a chance he could be hired for a job instead of us and that in itself is bad for business for the village. I want all the Anbu teams that encounter Ulquiorra Schiffer to capture him and if he causes too much trouble kill him with enough of his body left behind to study," said Tsunade, seeing Jiraiya nod, knowing the man's body could prove beneficial if studied. "I'll get right on it," said Jiraiya with a small smirk on his face, though it didn't fully reach his eyes. "There is something on your mind," said Tsunade, seeing Jiraiya heading to the window. "It's nothing. Just thinking," said Jiraiya, seeing Tsunade raise an eyebrow at him. "About?" said Tsunade, wishing he'd clarify. "The past. About Naruto," said Jiraiya, seeing Tsunade's eyes narrow now. "What about him?" said Tsunade, while seeing Jiraiya sigh. "It's just, do you ever regret what happened? That we betrayed him? His father? Mother? Sensei?" said Jiraiya seeing Tsunade scowl at him. No. Why should you? Said Tsunade coldly seeing Jiraiya sigh again. He was our godson Tsunade. His parents entrusted him to us in the event of his death. We neglected him and then sentenced him to death for completing the mission given to him. Your own grandmother was in Uzumaki and the first Jinchuriki of Kyuubi for Kami's sake, said Jiraiya, seeing Tsunade slam her hand on the desk to silence him from speaking out any further. Enough. So what if we left him to his own devices? All my life, I've been expected to be this understanding woman and follow the path that the rest of my family took in life since Konoha's founding. Look where it got them, Jiraiya. They're all dead. Every single member of the Uzumaki clan is gone. So is mine. I'm the last member of the Senju clan and I'm going to make decision that I want to make while Hokage. Not my grandfather. Not my granduncle. Not Dan. Not Nawaki, not Minato. Not Kushina. And certainly not Sarutobi-sensei. I will decide what I feel is right and we both damn well know the Kyuubi is long gone thanks to what Minato did, so why should we care if the boy died so long as several major threats don't come after us? Said Tsunade seeing Jiraiya frown. I'm not following, said Jiraiya seeing Tsunade's eyes narrow further. The Akatsuki will no longer attack us, Jiraiya. We can now focus on Orochimaru and Kabuto. You said it yourself, the Shinigami seal was not 100% safe when it came to Naruto, and the use of so much of Kyuubi's power fighting Sasuke weakened it considerably. The brat had to die and remove the demon from the village altogether so we could move on. The scar the Kyuubi has left on this village has finally been removed and I made it happen. Something none of the other Hokages had the courage to do in the first place. Said Tsunade seeing Jiraiya grimace. It'd have to be public. Brand him a traitor to the leaf. Said Jiraiya seeing Tsunade shrug. I gave the people what they wanted. More support from them keep the councils in check and it's not like the clan heads were against it either, said Tsunade seeing Jiraiya shake his head. Did you ever care about him? At all? I mean, he had my spy network, Beauty had to leave the village and Yao you left out off spite. Said Jiraiya seeing Tsunade smirk. The Uchiha's clan isn't the only one with a mean streak hidden beneath the surface, said Tsunade seeing Jiraiya let out an empty laugh. Clearly. Then again, you've always had a mean streak and Kushina no doubt trusted you to use it against Naruto's enemy as not against him. Well, I just thought I would ask and see what it was that drove you to it, said Jiraiya before leaving. Baka. Why should it matter now after 3 years? The brat is dead. Let the dumb fool rot in hell with the very demon sealed within his body and let that be the end of it, thought Tsunade as she ignored the picture behind her of the previous Hokages and the feeling of them glaring at her for the betrayal of Uzumaki Naruto. As Tsunade told Jiraiya, she was done caring and refused to care about things like that anymore. With Ulquiorra in Earth Country. The Ranker was once again reminded of why he thought humans, or rather most humans, were trash in this world while watching things from above in the sky. Iwas and Anbu were hunting 2 Jinchuriki from their village who had gone into seclusion less than 6 months ago to master the demonic power sealed within their bodies and not be persecuted by their so-called home. The group had just caught up to 2 with the taller one named Han and the red-haired with beard-faced man Rashi telling the Anbu to leave them alone. To let them be alone to master their power and that they would return soon after completing their objective. Iwas Anbu chose to ignore the request. We don't care what you Jinchuriki want. What matters is what the Tsuchikage wants and right now he wants you 2 locked up while special seals are placed on you to ensure this doesn't happen again, said the Iwa Anbu captain with his weapon drawn and the others with him followed in his movement. We do not wish to fight you. We are loyal shinobi of Iwa just as you are. Why are you making this difficult? Said Han hearing them all chuckle at his words. Because we can. We like making things difficult for freaks like you. It doesn't matter how loyal you are to the Tsuchikage, you're still going to be treated like the filth you are and there's not damn thing you can do about it, said another Anbu of lieutenant rank this time. They can't. But I can, said Ulquiorra from above before the thunderous weight of his spiritual pressure covered the area and saw both sides fall to their knees while the former Espada descended to the ground. Who are you? What are you? Said Han as he was barely staying on his knees due to his demon using its chakra willingly to make the pressure more tolerable and Rashi was doing the same. The Iwa Anbu were dead from their hearts, stopping after the spiritual pressure crushed any form of life right out of them. I am something far beyond you two. Just as you two are far beyond those Iwa shinobi, said Ulquiorra before cutting off the spiritual pressure and then began to walk away. Wait. Said Rashi seeing the Ranker stop and turn to look at them both. Please, take us with you, said Han seeing the man before them raise an eyebrow. Just like that? You wish to follow me? I thought you two were loyal shinobi of Iwa. Said Ulquiorra seeing the two slowly stand up and look at each other before looking back. We were, but it was when they were about to attack, right before you interfered, did we realize that our loyalty means nothing to the Tsuchikage or the rest of the village. "Please take us with you," said Rashi, bowing his head submissively at this powerful being before him. "No. Where I go you cannot follow," said Ulquiorra, turning away from them and began to leave. "Do you know of any place where we can go? Where we can be safe for the time being?" said Han, seeing the ranker stop walking once more, now staring into space while deep in thought. "There is one place. There are no shinobi there, as it is a neutral country, or rather it was 3 years ago. I've been away for so long, but the people there understand what it is like to suffer from oppression as you did and were freed of it by someone who was just like you. Go to Wave Country. It is there you will find the happiness you seek, and should you meet an old man named Tazuna, his daughter Tsunami with her son Inara, tell them their old hero from 3 years ago says hi," said Ulquiorra before he vanished via Sonido. "What do you think he means by that?" said Han, seeing Rashi was just as puzzled. "It doesn't matter. We can ask the people of Wave Country questions after we get there and deliver the message. Maybe it will shed some light on who that man is," said Rashi, seeing Han shake his head in disagreement. "That wasn't a man. That was something else," said Han, as they now headed to Wave and at a moderate pace. "You sensed it too?" said Rashi, seeing Han nod. "He felt dark, twisted, and empty inside. Like how we have felt for years in Iowa, only it was more intense." "As if he defines emptiness," said Han, seeing no other way to describe the rancor. Rashi could only nod in agreement. "I was sometime later." "What do you mean the entire Anbu team I sent after them was killed?" said the now angry Sandame Tsuchikage, seeing his granddaughter Kuritsuchi hold her gaze at him. "It was as I just stated, Tsuchikage-sama. Each member of the squad sent after Rashi and Han were killed. However, from the looks of things, their deaths were not caused by either Han or Rashi using their abilities on them," said Kuritsuchi, as she was stumped by this turn of events and saw the old man raise an eyebrow at her. "What? Then how did they die?" said the Tsuchikage, seeing the woman was hesitant to answer him. "From what we've been able to determine, they all died from their heart stopping at the same time, and there is a bit more we learned when checking the area," said Kuritsuchi, seeing that Tsuchikage was shocked by this news. "What?" said the Tsuchikage, seeing his granddaughter looking hesitant again. "There was another set of footprints in the area. The problem is, they seemed to appear in front of Han and Rashi before walking away from them. The clearing they were in was large with few trees to leap on, and the landing from jumping from one of those trees would have caused skidding. All the evidence we have collected points to someone with the ability to either fly or is a master of gliding to the point of making a landing like with ease," said Kuritsuchi, seeing that Tsuchikage leaned back against his chair. "So it's someone with a strong wind affinity. A missing nin from Suna or one of their loyal shinobi perhaps. Then again, such an affinity has been known to pop up in different villages from time to time, and the Sandame Hokage's son has it too," said the Sandame Tsuchikage, clearly puzzled by this. "But not even Saratobi Asuma has such a high level in wind affinity, and to use it to stop Hirtsut's unheard of," said Kuritsuchi, seeing that Tsuchikage nod in agreement. "Yes. And by now, we would have received word from our spies in the Leaf that Konoha had Han and Rashi in their custody. The same with the other villages and this Akatsuki organization that's been rumored to be hunting them. So if it wasn't the Leaf or anyone else we know, Interferedwo did," said Kuritsuchi, seeing the old man in front of her look slightly more aged. "That's the frightening thing, my dear. We don't know anything about this person at all, and that's the most dangerous kind of foe there is," said Tsuchikage, wondered how he would be able to deal with this. "So what do we do?" said Kuritsuchi, seeing that Tsuchikage shake his head and would have answered if a sudden intense pressure struck them both with enough force to drop them to their knees. "You can start by dying," said Ulquiorra Schiffer as he walked into the room, calmly knowing his spiritual pressure was blanketing the entire village and now everyone was struggling to live, much less breathe through the thickness of it all. Even if it was a small percentage of his actual power. "Who are you?" said Kuritsuchi while trying not to vomit with each passing second. The pale green-eyed man with the unreadable expression his face walked towards her. "That is not your Busanestrash," said Ulquiorra as he walked past her to the Sandame Tsuchikage and picked the old man up by the throat before slowly squeezing it. "Why are you doing this?" said the Sandame Tsuchikage as he struggled to breathe and seeing the rancor showing no emotions whatsoever. "Because you are trash," said Ulquiorra before striking the man in the chest through the heart to form a perfect circle, pulled out his hand, flicked the blood away, and let the now dead Tsuchikage fall to the ground right in front of his granddaughter. "You bastard. You think we'll let you get away with this? You're dead. You just don't know it," said Kuritsuchi as she tried to get up and fight this invisible weight that seemed to keep her down. "It doesn't matter what you do. I could care less. You're trash. Your whole village is filled with trash that deserves to burn. Just like the Leaf," said Ulquiorra as he was walking out of the room and slowly lessening the pressure. "And what does the Leaf have to do with any of this?" said Kuritsuchi, seeing the rancor stop and turn his head slightly to look at her through the corner of his eye. "Everything," said Ulquiorra before he was gone from her sight, and within seconds the invisible weight that held her down was gone. "Lock down the village right now. The Tsuchikage has just been assassinated," yelled Kuritsuchi through her radio transmitter, with the alarm soon blaring echoing throughout the village. By the time the village had been searched down to the smallest detail, it was clear that the intruder assassin had escaped their grasp and far away from Iowa. Akatsuki HQ sometime later. "It's been confirmed. The Tsuchikage is dead," said Pain, seeing Itachi nod. "Yes. According to our spies, the late Sandaime Tsuchikage's own granddaughter yelled it and ordering the village into lockdown," said Itachi, seeing Pain nod. "The Sandaime Tsuchikage was old but still strong. Who killed him?" said Kakuzu with curiosity in his voice. "From the description given, it was the same man who killed Sasori and Deidara in Wind Country," said Itachi, seeing the shock on their faces. "This is becoming a problem. What about Iwa's Jinchuriki?" said Pain, seeing Itachi look away from him before returning his gaze. "They're not in Iowa or even in Earth Country. It's speculated this new foe took them away from their village before killing the Tsuchikage," said Itachi, seeing Pain narrow his eyes in anger at this change of events. Deidara had assured him 3 years ago that even with the Kyuubi gone, the plan could still work and that they just needed to be patient. Pain has assumed Madara spoke of the 9-tailed fox would reform its body again like the 3 tails was going to do shortly in the next few months, but didn't realize the extent as to what the Yondaime Hokage had done to make that impossible and had to play the waiting game. "Find them, Itachi. Kakuzu. Haiden. Hunt down the Nibi vessel. I want her here to extract the 2-tailed demon immediately," said Pain, making sure the tone in his voice left no room for arguing. They were in no position to argue. Hyuga compound. Hinata walked to the shrine once more, the picture of Naruto tucked away in her jacket, and was glad her father was out of the house on business elsewhere in the village. She didn't want him trying to surprise her again while making this pilgrimage to the shrine to pray for Naruto, even when he knew about this and had told his daughter to stop. Hinata refused, which only served to anger her father even further, and then basically made it a command. Again, Hinata refused him a second time and even challenged the man to a fight with a victory against Hiashi, allowing the Hyuga heiress the right to visit the shrine to pray for Naruto's happiness in the afterlife. The loss to her father would be the exact opposite. To further ensure this was on the record, both Niji and Hanabi had been a witness to this event. They were also shocked to see Hinata come out victorious, fighting her father and making him honor the agreement. Still, it was a victory for Hinata and more importantly a victory for Naruto's soul. "I know father wishes me to marry soon within a year's time, but I refuse to marry and be with anyone other than Naruto-kun. I shall die pure just for him and to defy my clan if I must," thought Hinata, as she knew how her beauty was making the heads of many men turn to look at her and try to make the Hyuga heiress swoon. They all failed miserably. Reaching the shrine, Hinata frowned at the sight of a note there and saw it was addressed to her to read. Thinking it was some kind of trick or some would-be suitor trying to get her attention, she lazily opened it before reading its contents. Then proceeded to drop the note with a gasp escaping her mouth at the single sentence written on it. "Thank you for praying for me, Hinata-chan. Naruto-kun," thought Hinata as she quickly picked up the note again and using her eyes, saw it was his handwriting without any signs of the writing being a forgery. High above her, Ulquiorra Schiffer watched the Hyuga heiress looking down at the once shy girl who would blush and press her fingers together if Uzumaki Naruto was ever mentioned in a single sentence. He had not seen her until now, but even from his current position, the Arrancar could tell Hinata was a knockout and any guy would be an idiot to break her heart. "One day, Hinata-chan. One day we will be together again and maybe just maybe both of us can fill the emptiness in our souls together," thought Ulquiorra while wondering if she would even accept him as he was now before vanishing from the area, knowing there were other matters to attend to. The pair of snakes hiding in Rice Country had to die in a long line of trash that needed to be thrown out. Chapter 4 Dead Men Tell No Tales. "This information is most interesting," said Orochimaru as he read over the report of the Sandaime Tsuchikage being assassinated in his office several days ago and right in front of the man's own granddaughter no less. If the simple fact everyone in Iowa had collapsed on the ground from the invisible weight that hit moments earlier, the woman would have been charged with treason in assisting in the old man's death. It was also interesting how the 2 Jinchuriki that members of the Akatsuki were after had been missing before then had come to light and made the Snake Sannin curious as to where they had gone. It wasn't that he liked Jinchuriki, as the Kyuubi Jinchuriki had given him more than enough trouble before Tsunade had surprised him and killing the brat, and the last thing Orochimaru wanted was to deal with 2 of them with a combined strength to equal the Kyuubi's tailed strength. It is indeed Orochimaru-sama. From what intelligence we can gather, 2 members of the Akatsuki, Sasori of the Red Sands and Deidara formerly of Iowa, were killed while in Suna going after the Kazukiage. Apparently, this Ulquiorra Schiffer is a man that has a blank look on his face that rivals Uchiha Itachi and wields what many consider to be unnatural powers on account of him, apparently being the source of that invisible weight that hit Iwa, said Kabuto, seeing Orochimaru smile an evil smile at the prospect of a new body to call his own. I want this Ulquiorra Schiffer recruited to our side, Kabuto. At least, for the moment he will be recruited, and then later I will turn him into my new body, said Orochimaru, as he saw the possibilities with this man's body and wanted to use it to bring the elemental countries to their knees. I'll have teams prepared to find him, Orochimaru-sama, said Kabuto before the feeling an incredible weight hit him with enough force to hit face first into the ground. Orochimaru was no better, though he had at least fallen to his knees first before the face hit the ground. Explosions rocked the base, screams of pain, agony, and death echoed throughout the underground passageways that got closer with each passing second. With each second, the weight got heavier, the pressure got thicker, and the source of it got closer to the two shinobi formerly of the leaf. A blast of green energy removed the nearby wall as the individual responsible for it entered the room and looked down at the two shinobi. Given your level of intelligence, I thought you would have moved on from this country after the Leaf learned of your base's general location 3 years ago and lost the chance to grab Uchiha Sasuke. It seems I overestimated you. I confess that the level of stupidity shown here by you is disappointing to me. I honestly wished you weren't here in this base of yours and that I would have to actually work harder if only for another day in finding you, said Ulquiorra Schiffer as he looked from Kabuto to Orochimaru and just closed his eyes for a second to indicate his disappointment to them since he didn't know how to sigh. It just wasn't in him to show emotions regarding such things. Not yet anyway. You're not human, said Kabuto, finding his body healing ability was the only thing keeping him alive right now. No. I'm not. I'm no more human than Sasori of the Red Sands was after he became a living puppet, said Ulquiorra, turning from Orochimaru to Kabuto as the medic nin's body was constantly breaking and healing from moving under his spiritual pressure. Then what are you? Said Orochimaru as he was finding himself more tolerable of it and was able to stand on his knees. Despair, said Ulquiorra before bringing his foot down on Kabuto's skull and crushed it with ease, so all that was left was a blood stain. No way to regenerate. What is your goal in coming after us? Who sent you to do this? What is your purpose for accomplishing what the Sandaime Hokage could not? Said Orochimaru, seeing Ulquiorra look at him with a raised eyebrow. There is no goal. There is no purpose. No one sent me to kill you. I just came here to do what your sensei could not, said Ulquiorra, grabbing one of Orochimaru's arm and then yanking it right out of its socket with the Sannin screaming out in pain. Bastard. I'll make you suffer for this, said Orochimaru, seeing Ulquiorra Schiffer look at his arm for a second and then crushed it with ease that sent blood everywhere. Unlikely, said Ulquiorra before taking the other arm off in the same painful fashion with the same painful result for Orochimaru. That's what you think. Said Orochimaru as he shot Kusanagi out of his mouth at the rancor, but Ulquiorra moved his head slightly to the left and grabbed the blade with just the tips from 2 of his fingers. The former Espada wasn't impressed. The last act of a dying coward is to always strike out in fear. That is what you are, Snake Sannin. A weak coward who is afraid to die and can't get what he wants in life because of it, said Ulquiorra, seeing Orochimaru glaring at him and painfully pulled the sword out of the Sannin's mouth with blood now running out of it in the process. How is it you know so about me when everyone else in the elemental countries knows nothing about you? Said Orochimaru, seeing Ulquiorra looking the Kusanagi blade over for a second before looking back at him. Human curiosity. Such a strange thing. Still, if you must know at least one thing about me, it's that I wish you had killed Senjutsu 3 years ago with this sword when your arms were just as useless to you as they are now and put that piece of female trash out of her misery, said Ulquiorra, seeing Orochimaru's eyes narrow when looking at his green ones to no doubt remember if they had crossed paths 3 years prior. How do you know that? Only the people in that fight knew of such a specific detail and you aren't one of them. Said Orochimaru, seeing Ulquiorra's eyebrow rise yet again. Are you certain? Look closer. See if I have a familiar look to my face. Perhaps in my eyes. Said Ulquiorra, seeing Orochimaru trying even harder now to remember him, but it was clear the Sannin's memory was getting a blank and couldn't see the rancor in that place 3 years ago. The Snake Sannin would have remembered someone like Ulquiorra Schiffer back then. I don't see it, said Orochimaru, hearing Ulquiorra make a noise that sounded like he was disappointed and expecting more from the infamous Snake Sannin. Again, I overestimated you, give your reputation and set my expectation too high. How sad. I don't really want to spell it out for you, so I will just have to make this more clear so even someone of your intelligence can understand this. 3 years ago, the dead man now lying next to you was hit by one of the jutsus made by the Yondaime Hokage and I was the one that hit him with it, said Ulquiorra, seeing Orochimaru's eyes narrow for a second and then widen to the maximum level his eyes would allow with shock clear as crystal. It can't be. It can't. you died. My spies reported your death within the hour of Sasuke performing the execution himself," said Orochimaru, not believing that the Kyuubi brat was this inhuman thing before him. "I know. I was there when your prized Uchiha killed me. Well, I can no feel the emotion anymore since becoming what you now see before you. I do remember I felt some form of satisfaction in denying the Uchiha what he wanted from my death and knowing he would never achieve it through me," said Ulquiorra, knowing that only the memories of his past life were the only things that allowed him to understand what certain emotions were. "Then what are you? What have you become upon your death?" said Orochimaru before Ulquiorra simply pointed an index finger at him and a small ball covering the tip of that finger quickly appeared. "I told you before, Orochimaru of the Sannin. I am despair. To be more accurate, I am your despair along with the rest of your former teammates who will be joining you in the near future. Zero," said Ulquiorra as he fired the zero right where Orochimaru's heart was and left a hole in his chest. Looking around, the ranker went to the table in the room and saw different reports filled with detailed information regarding the world. Nothing of noticeable interest in the first couple of pages to the former Espada, since most spies reported about bodies to be turned into Orochimaru's potential vessels in the future. What did catch Ulquiorra's eyes was an intelligence report from an unnamed spy in Konoha informing Orochimaru about Team 7, planning to meet with Kabuto under the means of impersonating Sasori of the Red Sands at a secret location, acquired thanks to Jiraiya's spy network, in the hopes the news of Suna's greatest puppet master being dead had not reached the Sannin. If Ulquiorra had the muscle power to smirk at this moment, he would have done it right there, as he had an idea on how to make himself known to the Leaf and further bring them into despair like he planned. They planned to meet Kabuto within the hour in the hopes of capturing the medic Nin in order to gather information on or following him to Orochimaru's exact location. They would soon be in for quite the surprise. But Team 7. Stay sharp, team. Captain Yamato is going to require your help in the event this meeting goes bad for us, said Kakashi into his headset to the rest of the team. Do you think Kabuto will show up? I mean, word could have reached him about Sasori being dead and already preparing a trap for us, said Sakura into her headset. Possibly. Best case scenario, Yamato convinces Kabuto that Sasori escaped Suna and the only thing destroyed there was a puppet. The worst case scenario is Kabuto doesn't buy it and we fight him for the information on Orochimaru. Don't hold back on him if that happens. His skill are on par with my own, said Kakashi, knowing Kabuto wasn't someone you could just take down easily and had to fight with extreme caution. The young medic Nin knew the human body well and knew how to cripple it with ease. Quite. Someone's coming, said Yamato in his Sasori disguise at the shadowy figure walking towards him on the other side of the bridge. Only for his and the others in hiding to stare wide-eyed in surprise that the figure heading their way was not Kabuto. No. It couldn't be. How? Thought Kakashi as he saw the figure heading towards him and made him extremely nervous. What's he doing here? Said Sasuke angrily at seeing the figure casually walk towards Yamato without giving anything away on his face. We need to abort. That guy could kill Captain Yamato just for the disguise alone, said Sakura, knowing Ulquiorra could be convinced it was the real Sasori and just kill the man behind the impersonation just to make sure. We can't. Yamato, play it out like you survived and don't wish to engage the man in a fight, said Kakashi, knowing they had to play this just right. What about us? Said Sasuke with his voice clearly indicating the Uchiha was itching for a fight. Be ready to move in and get Yamato out of there. Sigh. Get the brush, paper, and ink ready to make some really nasty creatures should this goes bad, said Kakashi, knowing the boys' drawing gave them temporary numbers they would need to hold off the enemy. I'm ready, said Sai, knowing time was of the essence in making such drawings and then bringing them to life. Greetings, Ulquiorra-san. I did not expect to see you again so soon, said Sasori, while Ulquiorra just walked towards him with the emotionless expression on his face. Do you take me for a fool, Leaf Shinobi? Said Ulquiorra while staring at the fake man in front of him. What are you talking about? I'm not a Leaf Shinobi, said Sasori, seeing Ulquiorra look past his body for a brief second and then turn his gaze back. Do you think I cannot tell the difference between the real Sasori and a fake? If I could feel emotions, I'd most likely be insulted and have a strong urge to kill you, said Ulquiorra as he saw the fake Sasori back up slightly and looking a tad frightened. I don't want to fight you, Ulquiorra-san. Can't we just let bygones be bygones and just be strangers in passing? Said Sasori in the hopes of defusing the situation from spiraling out of control. If you were the real Sasori, I would have killed you instantly like I did when the two of us met in Suna and continued walking on. The fact you are just a fake is the only reason I don't do what I did to the real puppet master and make sure the small audience behind you understands the severity of their actions, said Ulquiorra, seeing Sasori take another step back. As I said, I am not here to start a fight with you and wish to be left to my own devices regarding my reasons for being in Rice Country, said Sasori, seeing Ulquiorra staring at him with those soulless green eyes, and it was scaring Yamato something fierce. You mean your mission to subdue Kabuto in order to learn Orochimaru's location, said Ulquiorra, as the rancor sounded like he was simply stating a fact and saw Sasori jump back in shock. You know? Said Sasori, seeing Ulquiorra nod once to the question. Orochimaru has known about your mission for some time. His spies in Konoha have not all been expunged from your trash-infested village and knew of your mission to seek out Kabuto to learn of his whereabouts, said Ulquiorra before Team 7 and their sensei came out ready to fight. So you work for Orochimaru now. What are you? His son or something? You have the pale skin and freaky eyes, so the chances are pretty good, said Sakura, seeing Ulquiorra narrow his eyes slight fraction at her words, with the only way to notice being if you were mere inch from his face to see it. His son? You actually think I'm related to such a weak human? Such an insulting group of human trash standing you are, said Ulquiorra as he saw them tense at his words and wondered what else they were going to accuse him of being. If you're not in league with Orochimaru, then how did you know that he knew about this mission? Said Sasuke with his Sharingan eyes now active. I thought it would have been obvious given my already impressive track record when it came to fighting missing nin of this world. I killed Orochimaru of the Sannin and his subordinate Kabuto not that long ago, said Ulquiorra calmly while seeing the shocked reactions to the Sannin's death. Liar. Said Sasuke as he wanted to fight and kill them to further prove his strength in order to advance his goal of killing Itachi. I don't lie. Lies only numb a person's pain. Numb a person's emptiness. Numb a person's despair. The truth is the most powerful weapon in the world. People are too afraid to use it out of some pitiful sense of morality to the point where they lose the ability to speak the truth at all. Ironic really. Still, if you need further proof outside of my words, then look at this and decide for yourself in whether I'm speaking the truth or simply telling you a lie, said Ulquiorra as he drew Kusanagi from within his trench coat while keeping the hole in his chest from being seen and just threw the weapon in an underhanded throw so it landed in between them in the middle of the bridge. Is that Reali Kusanagi? The sword that killed the Sandaime Hokage? Said Sakura as she had heard how Orochimaru used the blade and would have killed the old man had he not given his own life to weaken his former student. It is. Now do you see? Why numb your pain and despair with lies? The truth is far more terrifying and painful than any lie could be. When I say something, I speak the truth and I will do it. If I say you are trash, then it is the truth. If I say I am stronger than any of you could ever be in 1,000 years, it is the truth. If I say you are going to one day die at my hands, then it is the truth, said Ulquiorra, seeing the group back away from him in some involuntary act of fear. So what now? Are you going to try and kill us here? Said Kakashi, wishing to get some kind of key emotional reading on this guy. No. Why should I kill you now? Not when you can bring further despair to the leaf by reporting back to your trash of a female Hokage, said Ulquiorra, seeing them seethe in loathing at his words. Sexist pig. Said Sakura, shaking her fist at him. You seem to have misunderstood me. Your Hokage isn't trash because she's female. She is trash because she is trash. Trash does not recognize gender. You are trash just as your sensei is trash, and the same can be said about the Uchiha, along with these two right here beside him, said Ulquiorra, seeing them shocked once more at his words. So everyone is trash except for you? Said Sasuke while wondering why those words made him want to go down memory lane. No. Almost everyone. There is a difference, said Ulquiorra, casually, seeing them angry at his words once more. Bastard. Said Sasuke, getting ready to create the Chidori to finish this guy in one shot, but Kakashi stopped and restrained him slightly. Sasuke, no. You're strong, but not that strong, and we need to report to the Hokage about him. There will be another time and place for this. But not now, said Kakashi, seeing the Uchiha snarl at Ulquiorra, but conceded all the same and obeyed the Jounin's command. Before you go, I have a message for your Hokage, and I want you all to pay attention because I'm only going to say it once, said Ulquiorra, seeing the Leaf team look at him now with curiosity. What's the message? Said Sakura before an intense pressure hit them all and they fell down hard while Ulquiorra went to pick up Kusanagi. Tell your Hokage or godson she betrayed 3 years ago wishes to show Konoha the meaning of despair, said Ulquiorra before walking away from them. Godson? No. It couldn't be. Thought Kakashi while the other of the original Team 7 could only open their eyes wide in shock. Naruto? Said Sakura, calling out to the Ranker and making the former Espada stop for a second. You remembered the name I had when alive, I see. I would have thought that you of all people would have forgotten about it within 3 minutes after my death. No doubt, you only remember it to insult me for my failures in life and to further enhance the Uchiha's supposed greatness, said Ulquiorra, seeing the girl tense slightly and knew he was correct in his assumption of her. How are you alive? I killed you. Your body was burned after I stabbed you through the chest with my Chidori, said Sasuke, knowing this might be his second chance to gain the next level of his eyes through his former loser of a teammate. You seem to be under the assumption I am human. I am not, said Ulquiorra while he just stared at the trash on the ground. Then what are you? Tell us, said Kakashi staring into the emotionless eyes of the Arankor before him. I keep telling you. I am despair. I am emptiness. All that you know and all that is will come to know me as the embodiment of these things, said Ulquiorra walking away again before stopping, as if in thought for a second, and turned back to look at the group for a moment with calculating eyes. And raised his right hand before pointing his index finger at them with a green orb the size of the fingertip forming. Wait. You said you wanted us to live to report to the Hokage, said Kakashi trying to move and possibly shield two of his former students. I did say that, but I also know your Hokage needs to take me seriously and actions have always proven to be louder than words. Zero. Said Ulquiorra before firing his line of green energy not at Sakura, not at Kakashi, not even Sasuke or the pale-skinned boy that had a fake smile on his face. He aimed it at Yamato, who was still in his fake Sasori disguise and was obliterated from entirely. Captain Yamato, said Sakura as she could only see a fraction of what happened, but what the girl saw was enough to scare her down to the very core of her being and knew this person claiming to be Naruto was in fact serious about killing them. Tell the Senju you trust so much that she owes her godson a very big debt in the form of her life, said Ulquiorra before walking away and releasing the spiritual pressure that kept them pinned down. This can't be happening, said Sakura slowly getting off the ground and looked like she was ready to freak out. It is. We need to report to the Hokage fast, said Kakashi knowing that Ulquiorra could change his mind and kill them all. When I see you next time loser, I will kill you and get what I want, thought Sasuke as he vowed to kill the loser a second time and when he did the next level to the Sharingan would finally be his. With Ulquiorra. The former Espada looked at the base Orochimaru resided in when alive and still did with his body, no doubt sprouting maggots if given enough time to let that happen. When the Sannin died, Ulquiorra knew the man was going to hell, as that is where souls like his went, and Ulquiorra preferred it that way. Even if by some chance Orochimaru became a hollow, the man would be ranked upon the weaker ones and most likely be killed shortly after arriving. The same would no doubt be said for Kabuto too. Still, the base the two rotting bodies were in could cause problems if left to be found by some would-be villain seeking to take up where Orochimaru left off. That wouldn't do at all. Pointing his hand at the ground where the mass of the underground base was located, Ulquiorra's Schiffer formed a much bigger Zero than he had before now, using some of his blood to make this Zero much more powerful than its original version and calculated the overall backlash in general this attack would no doubt cause when unleashed. Aizen, for all his reasons, had always ordered the Espada show restraint when using this type of attack when accounting for the overall devastation this would cause and had trusted that Ulquiorra at the very least would show the necessary restraint with his power the other Espada could aspire to learning. Gran Rey Zero, said Ulquiorra as he unleashed the attack on the base and watched the entire vastness of the area became nothing more than a wasteland that no life could grow from. The aftershock of the world being hit by such power shook the planet to its foundation, as the Arankor knew this would attract a great deal amount of attention, and Ulquiorra did not want the snoopers to see him here. Let the fools that came report to their masters, as it was their job, and analyze this turn of events their world just went through. Right now, Ulquiorra was feeling hungry after using so much of his power, and while he was in Arankor, the former Espada was also alive with alive bodies needing food. He couldn't help but wonder how the food in Wave Country tasted since he was last there. Chapter 5 Memory Wave. Ulquiorra looked at the bridge connecting to Wave Country, feelings of some emotions he couldn't identify were now hitting him, and wondered if any of them were positive ones. Well, possible, he was also sure some of them were negative too, as they brought up a sense of emptiness at not having what other humans have and made the Arankor even more confused. Deciding not to dwell on those emotions, Ulquiorra's Schiffer walked across the bridge, hands in his pockets, and headed for the nearest restaurant to eat. Knowing money was involved, the former Espada had killed a small-time group of bandits that had just robbed an extremely rich weapons merchant and took the money from such spoils to use in the future. Like now given the man needed food to eat and there was the occasional need for his body to sleep, even though Ulquiorra never really understood it himself since he felt it was more a human than an Arankor thing. Though Coyote Sterk would possibly disagree given the amount of sleep the man always did in the past when in Las Noches. Refocusing on Wave Country, the former Espada could see prosperity had reached new heights for this land it had never experienced before his arrival when he was Uzumaki Naruto and saw the people were much happier since that time. The streets were clean, the people healthy, the children happy, and the buildings no longer looking ready to fall apart at the key structure points that kept them standing. In a way, Ulquiorra was a bit impressed that the people that were suffocating a slow agonizing death could recover so much within 3 years and show they could be strong when given proper nourishment as a whole. The former Espada would have thought more on this, but a familiar smell coming from an equally familiar form of food soon stopped Ulquiorra in his tracks and turned to see the one place even he didn't expect to find in Wave. Walking over to the familiar place of eating, Ulquiorra entered the restaurant and sat down on the stool that had at one point been his throne when it came to eating. "Welcome to Ichiraku Ramen. What would you like to order?" said the familiar female voice of AM as she turned to see the Aranker sitting down and was surprised to see such a strange person eating here. "Pork and miso ramen please," said Ulquiorra, wanting to see if his appetite had made any changes since his time being Uzumaki Naruto. "Coming right up," said AM before heading into the back to make the order, and it was then Ulquiorra realized the girl's father wasn't in the back to make the food. "Excuse me, but I have a question I wish to ask you," said Ulquiorra, seeing the woman look at him with surprise. "Oh. What's the question?" said AM, seeing the man eat his food with manners that could rival daimyo's. "If daimyo's ever ate ramen, that is. I am familiar with this ramen stand back when it was in Konoha, and I couldn't help but notice the usual chef isn't in the back. I've been out of touch for 3 years and I wish to speak with him after so long. Is he by chance out on business?" said Ulquiorra, trying to be polite and not give himself away at being rude. Memories of the woman always sneaking him some extra food when growing up had made sure he didn't offend her now. "My father died almost 3 years ago. He was killed in a home invasion robbery while I was out running errands," said AM, now suddenly saddened at the memory of her father dying. "I understand. However, I wish to know why you moved here and not stay in Konoha. Surely the people in the Leaf were understanding of your grief and comforted you," said Ulquiorra, seeing AM looking sadder with a hint of being scorn mixed into it. "No. If anything, I suspect the killer would have gotten away with it if caught and the people would throw a parade," said AM, seeing Ulquiorra raise an eyebrow. "I don't understand," said Ulquiorra, seeing the woman look hesitant to answer him. "My father and I weren't exactly liked in the Leaf, given how we didn't exactly go with the flow of things when it came to certain aspects of how things ran there. And as a result I believe my father paid the ultimate price for swimming against the tide," said AM, not knowing why she was telling him this, but there was something that told her she needed to tell this man the story and hoped he understood. "What was this aspect you speak of?" said Ulquiorra, having a pretty good idea but felt this would help give him insight, and that is something he wanted when it came to the Leaf. It was regarding one Uzumaki Naruto. He was the Leaf Village's Jinchuriki and held the Kyuubi in him. The poor boy was hated by the people for it, even though he was loyal to them, they still turned on him and killed Naruto just for completing the last mission they sent him to do. My father and I cared about Naruto so much. It broke our hearts to see him hated to such a level, and no one seemed to care it was happening. My father had even confronted Tsunade about her actions to have Naruto executed for completing the mission to retrieve the Uchiha, and while I don't know what went on in her office, I know she threatened him," said AM with tears running down his face. "When was he killed after she threatened him?" said Ulquiorra, seeing more tears fall from her eyes. "About a month later. It didn't matter if the shinobi investigating saying it was a robbery turned murder. I knew Tsunade had him killed and I would be next if I stayed in the Leaf, so I left while taking everything I could to set up my store here. It's one of the few places I knew saw Naruto as a hero, and I felt having my store here was a good way to honor their memory since father told me to always run the restaurant while in a happy environment with happy customers," said AM, seeing Ulquiorra nod and understanding that concept. "Given my past, I do understand emotions, so what I say next may be considered insulting to you and ask that you keep an open mind regarding my words. What if I told you that Uzumaki Naruto wasn't dead?" said Ulquiorra, seeing the woman glaring at him now and was a single second away from slapping him. "I'd say you have 5 seconds to explain that sentence before I ask you to get out of my restaurant," said AM, as her hand subtly reached for the knife on the counter and to use it in a threatening manner. "My words anger you, AM-san, which is understandable given the loss of such a bright light in your world, and it is only reasonable you would seek an answer to my painful question. However, I speak the truth when I say Uzumaki Naruto isn't dead and that he lives on in a different form that you sadly wouldn't recognize," said Ulquiorra, seeing the woman's eyes now narrowing at him. "How do you know my name?" "I never told it to you and I know we've never met," said AM, seeing the him nod at her. "Correct. You are very perceptive for someone without any shinobi training. I know your name because I knew you back when I was a helpless starving child and gave me food when I needed it the most," said Ulquiorra, seeing AM's eyes widen in shock and saw her faint in surprise at all the pieces fitting together. For reasons he didn't fully understand, Ulquiorra moved swiftly and caught the woman before she hit the ground. Closing the restaurant temporarily, the Aranker moved AM to the back and placed her in the lounging area she had set up for herself to apparently relax after a hard day's work. Within a few minutes, the woman awoke from her fainting spell and saw Ulquiorra looking down at her. Before she quickly got off the couch he placed her on. "You can't be Naruto-kun. You look nothing like him," said AM, stepping away from the impassive Aranker in front of her. "When I died, my soul was twisted mess of emptiness and despair that sent me to a realm known as Wako Mundo that in turn changed me into what is known as a hollow. I was able to achieve the highest rank among hollows called Vasto Lorde before a powerful rogue Shinigami named Aizen turned me into what you now see before you that is known simply as an Aranker," said Ulquiorra before telling AM the rest about how he died a second time and was granted another chance at life here in this world by Kami in his current form. "Wow. I never would have thought such a place existed for when people die," said AM, seeing Ulquiorra nod in agreement. "It's one of 3 realms of the afterlife. Hueco Mundo is for souls who have suffered in life and can't move on. Hell is for the evil souls that do evil in this world and have caused suffering in life to others. Soul Society, or as it's commonly known as heaven, is for the pure souls that do wonderful things in life to help others," said Ulquiorra, seeing AM nod at his explanation of how things worked when people died. "So when I die, I would go to this Soul Society place," said AM, seeing Ulquiorra nod his head. "Correct," said Ulquiorra simply. "Do you think my father is there?" said AM, hoping he was and not some hollow on account of his death. "Yes. Your father never performed an ill act against anyone in his life. There is more than a significant chance he is there now," said Ulquiorra, seeing the woman smile before she hugged him and cried into his shoulder. The sudden contact AM showed him shocked. Even the Aranker, since being hugged was not something he was used to, whether he was Ulquiorra Schiffer or Uzumaki Naruto. "Thank you," said AM, seeing him raise an eyebrow at her. "For what?" said Ulquiorra, wondering why she hugged and thanked him. "For confirming my father's in a better place," said AM, smiling at him, and wished he would do the same. "I wish I could say that I'm happy for you, AM, but such an emotion to lost to me. I died with emptiness and without a heart," said Ulquiorra, seeing AM become sad by this. "You feel no emotions at all?" said AM, seeing Ulquiorra nod. "Nothing," said Ulquiorra simply before turning to leave. "That's horrible. Wait. Where are you going now?" said AM, wishing he would stay. "I have places to go and people to see. Some of them to kill," said Ulquiorra before he left without another word to the woman. He may be Naruto deep inside, but at the same time is not, thought AM sadly to herself. Konoha sometime later. "Tsunade. I've got something," said Jiraiya, appearing in the window of the Hokage's office just as Team 7 finished their report regarding the vents at the bridge. "Dismissed. Kakashi, you stay. Don't breathe a single word of this to anyone. You do and you'll be executed. Bloodline be damned," said Tsunade coldly, and saw them leave the room. "I got a fixed location on Ulquiorra Schiffer," said Jiraiya finally, but saw the look on the female Hokage's face and knew something happened he missed. "Shut up and listen to what I have to say, Jiraiya. Then after it's all said and done you can tell me what you know," said Tsunade, as she didn't want to repeat what was just told to her, much less want to be reminded of this, but such a thing wasn't possible and had to fight back the overwhelming constricting in her throat before telling Jiraiya what Team 7 just reported in about. "Oh Kami. That was him," said Jiraiya, falling into a chair and nearly fell out of it upon impact since his depth perception was off a bit during the landing. "What do you mean that was him?" said Tsunade, seeing Jiraiya trying to come to terms with this information. Around that time Team 7 had left Rice Country. The area near their location was hit with an incredible force that caused a massive explosion of unimaginable force and turned most of it into a wasteland. Shinobi from all the surrounding areas are investigating. They don't know what caused it yet, but now from what you've told me about him being there, Orochimaru is dead along with Kabuto, and that it was Naruto back from the dead, well, it explains a few things, said Jiraiya, seeing Tsunade nod in agreement, though it was clear she was stumped by some things. "But why go after that Tsuchikage? Why not join Iwa in wiping us all out?" said Tsunade, seeing Jiraiya shake his head while letting out a weak chuckle with no warmth to it. "Because of the abuse the 2 Jinchuriki suffered in Iwa. Come on Tsunade. You know how Jinchuriki are treated in hidden villages. With the exception of Kumo, all Jinchuriki are hated and abused by the people in them, whether the cages in power let it happen or not. But Tsuchikage put those 2 through more hell than even Naruto did due to the Sandame not wanting the Yandame's son to be abused in the first place. When he killed the Tsuchikage, Ulquiorra was sending a message to every cage and village following that policy. Suna was spared because Gaara became the Kazekage and was loved by the village after certain truths came out his bastard father kept hidden from the people in the village, said Jiraiya, seeing Tsunade nod in understanding. "But why go after Orochimaru? It makes no sense," said Tsunade, not seeing the former blonde's plan. "Because he doesn't want anyone interfering in his plans against us. The Leaf. The very village that ordered his death in the first place. Orochimaru has been plotting to take us down for years and was an obstacle standing in Ulquiorra's way in getting to us first. He had to take her old teammate out of the equation, then destroy the area to make sure no one got a hold of work and take over while sending a clear message at the same time to everyone else, said Jiraiya, seeing Tsunade raise an eyebrow at him. And what message is that? Said Tsunade, wanting to hear it from the man's own mouth. That everyone who has screwed him and everyone else like him over are going to be wiped out by his hands, said Jiraiya, seeing Tsunade's eyes widen before narrowing. Where is he, Jiraiya? Said Tsunade, seeing him hesitate. Tsunade, I don't think, said Jiraiya before Tsunade slammed her fist onto the desk and glared heatedly at him. Where is he, Jiraiya? Tell me. Or Ibiki will make you tell him and he will tell me. Said Tsunade, not going to let Jiraiya's sudden sprouting conscience get in the way of handling this problem. He's currently in Wave Country. One of my spies from the Merchant Guild told me he saw him walking into Wave by the bridge. Gave a full description to confirm it, said Jiraiya, seeing the woman buzz Shizune on the intercom to bring in every single Anbu the village could spare. We can still salvage this. We can still stop him, said Tsunade, getting up and pacing slightly. Stop him? Tsunade, it's clear you're not thinking clearly and need to be reminded of the simple fact this isn't the Naruto you know. This isn't the same blonde-haired, blue-eyed, hyperactive kid we knew and betrayed 3 years ago. He's not even blonde anymore. The kid we knew became something else and he's not taking prisoners when it comes to taking us down. When Ulquiorra Schiffer comes to kill us, he's going to kill us painfully and without hesitation, said Jiraiya, seeing Tsunade narrow her eyes at him. Just when the group of Anbu she asked for came in numbering at 11. You're here for a mission of great importance. One so great that it could only be labeled a suicide mission, since I don't expect all of you to return regardless if you're successful or not. Kakashi, you're temporarily back in Anbu for this and given the rank of captain with Jiraiya having seniority leading this team. Do you understand? Said Tsunade, seeing the man nod and took the Anbu mask she threw at him. Yes, Hokage-sama, said Kakashi before putting on his Inu mask. Good. The mission is an assassination mission of the highest priority. You are to kill one target through Ulquiorra Schiffer, said Tsunade, seeing them nod in understanding. What about witnesses? Said one Anbu with a bear mask. Public or private? It doesn't matter. Just kill him. Said Tsunade, sensing the Anbu were a bit shocked by the sudden aggressiveness in the order given. You heard the Hokage. Let's go, said Kakashi before walking with the group out of the office, with Jiraiya being the last to leave. Though he stopped at the door to say one last thing. Tsunade, I know you don't regret what you did to Naruto 3 years ago, but that does not change the fact we were wrong and we deserve to die for it. We brought this on ourselves and sooner or later have to pay our debts owed to him. You can't run from this one, Tsunade, said Jiraiya. See, Tsunade now had a furious look on her face. Shut up and do your job, Jiraiya. Said Tsunade, pointing at him to leave, as she didn't want to hear his words filled with regret and trying to create a guilty conscience within her. I intend to. But don't be surprised when this team I'm leading turns up dead. Their deaths will be on your head, Tsunade. Remember that while you sit in this office waiting for him to come here to destroy the leaf, said Jiraiya before leaving the room with just enough time to dodge the thrown paperweight the female Hokage threw at him. This won't come back to hurt me. I won't let it, thought Tsunade, as she would teach the dumb brat a lesson and make him regret ever coming back to life. Wave Country at the moment. So you finally decided to see me, said Ulquiorra while staring at the marked graves of Mamachi, Zabuza and Haku. Behind him about 10 feet away Han and Rashi stared at his back. We asked around about you, Ulquiorra Schiffer. Or rather we asked about Uzumaki Naruto and found ourselves being told the story of a Jinchuriki being loved by the people here, said Rashi, while Ulquiorra just stared at the graves without looking back. They named the bridge after you, said Han simply while hoping for some kind of reaction. They named the bridge after Uzumaki Naruto. Do I look like him? Said Ulquiorra as he turned to stare at the two Jinchuriki and saw them look away for a second. No. But you were him. You can't change that fact, said Rashi with Han nodding in full agreement. No. I can't. I was once Uzumaki Naruto. I'll admit that. What I'll also admit is that the boy who died had everything I do not, just as I have everything he does not, and the one thing we have in common is that we were incomplete in a sense, said Ulquiorra, seeing the two had some idea of what he was talking about. We know you killed the Tsuchikage, and we also heard Orochimaru of the Sannin has also been killed too. Who else are you going after, said Rashi curiously. Simple. I'm going after everyone, said Ulquiorra simply. Everyone? Said Han, confused by answer. Yes. Everyone. Every village. Every cage. Every shinobi that sides with the policies and treating Jinchuriki like trash and weapons to be thrown out. It's time the status quo this world has lived in to change. While I am all for bringing about to spare others, it should be brought down upon those that deserve to suffer and not those that shouldn't, said Ulquiorra before turning his head slightly and narrow his eyes. What is it? Said Han before he saw Rashi tense up and then did the same. It seems our shared sanctuary is about to be invaded, said Ulquiorra, seeing the group arrive at the bridge and running across it. Akatsuki? Said Han, seeing Rashi shake his head. No. They fight only using 2 members at a time. This group is meant for me alone. A problem I intend to deal with alone, said Ulquiorra, walking away. Wait. Let us help you. To repay the debt we owe for helping us, said Rashi, seeing the ranker stop and look back at them. I can't. If they see you or use your demonic power, it will alert other shinobi villages and the Akatsuki of your exact location. It will place this country right in the middle of a contest between various powers and possibly be destroyed in the process, said Ulquiorra, seeing the two nod in understanding. It sounds like you care, said Rashi while holding back the smirk on his bearded face. I don't know. Maybe. It's hard to tell given what I am. I'm going on memories of my past life and what he would do in my place. Within reason, of course, said Ulquiorra, which was true, as the memories of the past kept flooding his mind while here and standing up for the little guy because he was the little guy had always been his MO while alive. Still, we feel a need to repay you and wish to assist in some manner, said Han, knowing they owed Ulquiorra that much. Do not interfere in this matter. That is the only way you can help me, said Ulquiorra before he used Sanito and was gone from their sight. Such emptiness. Do you think we will turn out like him when we die? Said Rashi, as he didn't want to, and yet there was always a chance. Maybe. Maybe not. I think the reason he asked us to come here was to find peace in life and be free from such a possibility when we die, said Han, with Rashi pondering that line of thought. So we don't become empty like himself, said Rashi, seeing that blank empty look in Ulquiorra's eyes every time he stared into them. Neither Jinchuriki wanted to end up like that. But Ulquiorra. So your Hokage finally decided to stop twiddling her thumbs and drinking sake like she usually does. I actually thought she'd send more. Tell me, my former sensei, should I feel insulted? Said Ulquiorra, standing in the path of the Anbu and Jiraiya shortly after they made their way across the bridge. You've grown, Naruto, said Jiraiya, making the Anbu with him tense since they did not know that this was once the demon brat they hated. That's not my name anymore. Nor is this his body. Tsunade saw to that with the help of the Uchiha when she ordered me to be executed. Or have you forgotten that day so easily, Iro-senin? Said Ulquiorra while memories of Uzumaki Naruto calling Jiraiya that little nickname rising up in his head once more. Your time has come, monster. By order of the Hokage, we are to kill you and bring your body back for study, said an Anbu behind Jiraiya wearing a bird mask. Of course Tsunade does. Like all human trash in this world, she is afraid of me, and for good reason too. I'm going to kill her, said Ulquiorra casually like he was talking about the weather and making a simple observation. Not if we kill you first, said Kakashi while readying his Sharingan eye behind his mask and use some of its more potent properties. Such a weak force such as yours is going to kill me? How exactly are you all going to accomplish this feat? Said Ulquiorra with a raised eyebrow. That's none of your business. Said another Anbu member of the squad wearing a wolf mask before he charged Ulquiorra with sword in hand. Wolf, stop. Said one of Wolf's comrades. Too little too late. The man was down faster than any of them could blink, with his head now sporting a hole with Ulquiorra's hand temporarily filling it. Throwing the dead leaf shinobi to the side, the ranker flicked his hand clean of the blood and didn't look the least bit impressed. Come. I wish to send more dead trash like him back to Tsunade until she finally gets the message and has seen enough of them to fight me herself, said Ulquiorra, seeing all the Anbu left tense while Jiraiya seemed to be analyzing him. Ulquiorra had no doubt it was to find a way to defeat him when everyone else failed to do it themselves. He can't take us all on. Let's kill the demon filth. Said another Anbu while Kakashi tried to keep them from making such foolhardy and hatred-blinding mistakes. Sadly, they wouldn't listen and rushed in anyway, while Ulquiorra just stood there with his hands once more in his pocket with an emotionless expression on his face. When the group was close enough to strike, the ranker easily dodged all their attacks, not that he had to, given his hero ability to take any damage they could dish out and not even be affected by it. The only reason he dodged was to see them try their hardest, and then when they had nothing left to give, crush them with the knowledge that nothing they tried had the power to defeat him. Despair only reached its peak in someone when they tried their hardest and failed. He's not even trying. To him, everything seems pointless and futile for us to fight. Yet Ulquiorra is not doing it out of arrogance like others would, but simply because he knows we can't win and is just bleeding us dry of our strength, thought Jiraiya as he watched Ulquiorra move left, right, behind an Anbu, in front of another, and scaring the shit out of them in the process, with each leaf shinobi slowly losing their cool, with mistakes being made with each passing second. He's making us destroy ourselves, thought Kakashi, seeing Ulquiorra stop and not move when Anbu of lieutenant rank swung his sword with the blade making contact out of the whole thing. Only for the blade to shatter upon impact. What? How did you act? said the Anbu with a bird mask before being kicked in the throat by Ulquiorra, with more than enough force to close his windpipe in a way that no form of medical assistance even from Tsunade herself could save the poor leaf shinobi. You seem to be under the impression that I dodge your attack simply on the belief that you can hurt me with your skills and weapons if they made contact with my body. I felt it was necessary to correct that misconception on your part by letting your comrade get his chance to strike me. At least now, you can come to realize there is no chance of winning against me and all hope is lost. Even if you did manage to cut me, it won't last for long and there is more to my power than you could ever imagine, said Ulquiorra while staring at the slowly dying shinobi choking on the ground while impossibly trying to breathe. What is he? Thought Jiraiya as he couldn't figure it out and neither could Kakashi with his Sharingan eye. Another sword from yet another Anbu tried to succeed where the broken weapon of the now dead leaf shinobi had failed, but Ulquiorra was not in the weapon's path like he had allowed before and was now a few feet away from them. Raising his hand, the ranker made a fist with green with black edge-colored energy forming there and made the leaf shinobi all become tense and thinking it was the Zero they had heard so much about. "Allah," said Ulquiorra firing the weaker version of the Zero and took out an entire line of 3 shinobi in one shot. "What was that?" said a female Anbu member of the group who was now terrified at seeing this new power quickly kill 3 more of her comrades and without the slightest bit of guilt. "Another way for you to die. Bala," said Ulquiorra as he fired it yet again and again until there was only one left, with the exception of Kakashi, still watching helplessly in fear at seeing so many leaf shinobi die in a gory fashion. Then Ulquiorra turned to face them. "Even if I go into Sage mode, there is no way I can win, and I doubt Kakashi's skills could even do anything to him," thought Jiraiya, while the last of the Anbu fighting the ranker fell to her knees at the sight of the horror and the will to fight stamped out of her. "Are you ready to die now, trash?" said Ulquiorra seeing Kakashi concentrating on him with his Sharingan. "Are you Ulquiorra?" "Kamui," said Kakashi using a move he had only recently been working on. Ulquiorra's eyes narrowed slightly before they widened in shock at feeling the sudden loss of right arm, leaving a bloody stump near the shoulder, and saw Jiraiya use this keen opportunity to go into Sage mode. Kakashi had fallen to one knee, clearly exhausted from using that attack, and could only watch the ranker look at where his arm was before looking at him now for that move. "It would appear you have something in your arsenal worthy of my attention. I'll have to correct that mistake," said Ulquiorra calmly despite his injury and the fact he was now had a bleeding stump for an appendage. "Not if I take you down first," said Jiraiya now in Sage mode and began to engage Ulquiorra in close combat. Ulquiorra, however, would not be put off by the Sannin's power as he grabbed the man's fist and kicked Jiraiya away before focusing on Kakashi once more. The Jounin didn't have the strength to fight Ulquiorra after using his Sharingan's power and struggled to even look at the ranker staring down at him. "Even if you kill me, your injury is permanent and gives hope to the Leaf Village that you can be killed," said Kakashi, seeing Ulquiorra raise an eyebrow at him like he was an idiot. "You mean the loss of my arm? You still seem to be under the impression I am human and thus fall under the same natural laws as the rest of your species." "I assure you I don't," said Ulquiorra seeing Kakashi looking at him in confusion and then at where his arm had been. "What are you talking about? Your arm is gone." "It's," said Kakashi, but to his absolute horror, the horror of the female Anbu and Jiraiya watching behind Themp's stump, Ulquiorra had for an arm regenerated. The only thing proving Ulquiorra had even lost his arm or had been damaged was the sleeve of his trench coat. "As I said, I am not human and you were foolish to assume I even was," said Ulquiorra seeing the fear and shock in Kakashi's eyes. That's not possible. "You could never heal that fast as Uzumaki Naruto," said Kakashi before gasping and crying out in shock at having Ulquiorra's hand pierce his chest where his heart was located. "I am not Uzumaki Naruto. I am not a Jinchuriki anymore with a demon's power healing my fragile human body like it would in the past. Kyuubi is dead." Tsunade and the rest of the trash in the leaf got their wish in having the fox permanently removed at the expense of my human life. However, such a wish comes at a price, and that price involves facing something far worse than the Kyuubi. At least he could not control his savagery after being forced to fight when manipulated by Sharingan eyes that commanded him to attack the leaf, said Ulquiorra, seeing Kakashi's eyes widen further at this news and then gave his hand a hard twisted to further enhance the pain. "Sensei. Rin. Abito. Father. I'm sorry," thought Kakashi feeling incredible pain from the intrusion into his heart. "Do you understand this pain now, Kakashi? This is the pain I felt 3 times in life when someone stabbed me in the heart with their hand when I was Uzumaki Naruto. The first 2 times when fighting the Uchiha when he went rogue and then a 3rd time being the day of my execution. Fitting that the master of such an assassination jutsu meet his end in the same manner as me, minus the lightning of course. I'll be sure to give your favorite student Uchiha the same courtesy." Just like he did to me those 3 long years ago, said Ulquiorra staring into the fading life of Hada Kakashi. Minato-sensei, said Kakashi as he was now hallucinating from the pain and saw the image of the yondaime looking at him with disapproving eyes. Ulquiorra, however, didn't answer his delusional and forced question and simply pulled his hand out of the Jounin's chest before once again flicking blood off of it. When the Jounin fell down onto the ground, Ulquiorra walked away from him and the last 2 remaining Leaf Shinobi of the group. "Where are you going?" said Jiraiya while still in sage mode. "You still wish to fight me? Do you even realize just how much of my power is being held back right now? Do you realize that I have the power to wipe you as I am and that to call on more of my power would just be a waste of energy to me? Surely, you're that stupid Iro Sennin," said Ulquiorra seeing the man narrow his eyes at him. "And you just expect me to let you go now and kill more people?" said Jiraiya with the rancor just look at him for a second before continuing his walk away from the Sannin. "I only kill trash. I would kill you and the female Anbu member right now. But I want you two to live and report to your Hokage. Tell that piece of leaf trash of your failure and see how she rewards you for it. Remember, I was rewarded for completing mission with an execution and I can only imagine what the Hokage will do when she hears how you did the opposite. I imagine it will be most amazing if I were a fly on the wall of her office when that happened," said Ulquiorra continuing the walk away and then vanished from sight using Sanido. "Damn it," said Jiraiya before deactivating Sage mode and walked over to Yugao still too horror-struck to move. He killed them all and wasn't even remorseful," said Yugao looking at Jiraiya, who just nodded and helped her up. "I know. We have to report to the Hokage and tell her the bad news," said Jiraiya before walking over to Kakashi and examined his face for the Sharingan eye. Only to find it had deactivated upon the Jounin's death and was completely useless to anyone now. "Do you think the Hokage would kill us for failing the mission? Like he said she would," said Yugao as she didn't want to die and while she had failed a few missions in the past the Sandaime had always understood. The current Hokage was not so kind from what she saw 3 years ago. "No. She won't. The Hokage needs every shinobi she can get her hands on. We're worth more alive than dead," said Jiraiya seeing Yugao nod. Though deep within their minds, the two knew that value would be tested and may go down when they report back to the Hokage. Chapter 6 Dawn's Slow Descent. Senju Tsunade, the 5th Hokage of Konoha, was infuriated beyond anything she had felt in all the years being alive and was staring at Jiraiya along with the last Anbu of the team now in her crosshairs. When Jiraiya gave her the report of the obvious failure of his mission, she nearly killed him on the spot and only stopped because like the male Sannin had told Yugao and Wave Counterthy were worth more alive than dead. After Jiraiya further explained how Kakashi had actually cost Ulquiorra his arm, Tsunade thought that the last ray of hope for the village lied in the Uchiha of all people and his damn eyes the leaf coveted so much. However, the hope died when her former teammate explained it soon regenerate, bone, nerves, muscle, and overall flesh manifested itself to replace what the rancor lost at the hands of Kamui ability Kakashi used. It didn't sit well with Tsunade when hearing that piece of information. "So what are you saying, Jiraiya? That without Kakashi's Sharingan eye, we can't win against him and should just accept the inevitable extermination of the Leaf Village?" said Tsunade seeing Jiraiya shake his head no. "Of course not. What I'm saying is we go defensive. Ulquiorra wants to kill you up close and personal, Tsunade. He's going to go through the front door to do it. So we strengthen our defenses so he can't do that and then get him that way," said Jiraiya seeing Tsunade think it over for a second. "Very well. However, for the village to even stand a chance of surviving, I need to inform the councils and clan heads of what is coming our way," said Tsunade, knowing that she couldn't hold this off any longer. "That will be fun. You know how they'll act with this news. Especially if they learn that Ulquiorra Schiffer is really Uzumaki Naruto somehow brought back to life. Do you know how much of a panic that would cause?" said Jiraiya seeing Tsunade scoff at him like he was exaggerating. "And what would you have me do, Jiraiya? Lie? The only way the village will be ready to fight Ulquiorra Schiffer is if they know everything," said Tsunade as she planned to call a meeting right away and get things done. "Hokage-sama," said Yugao at last and getting the Hokage's attention. "What is it?" said Tsunade while looking over some papers and not even looking at the only surviving Anbu she practically sent to their deaths. "I wish to resign from Anbu effective immediately," said Yugao as she now got the Hokage's full attention at this request and Jiraiya shook his head at such poor timing. "What? Why?" said Tsunade seeing Yugao shaking now. "After what happened in Wave, my nerves are shot and I can't be an Anbu anymore. I'm not going to stop being a Leaf Shinobi, but I can't be a member of Anbu after what I've seen and I just can't be in this unit anymore," said Yugao seeing the Hokage now narrowing her eyes and didn't look pleased in the slightest. "I see. Well, I'm sure your reasons for doing this are justified given the enemy you faced, and I accept your resignation from Andy for the moment, said Tsunade, knowing that Inoichi would have to do some mind-walking to fix this. Thank you Hokage-sama, said Yugao before bowing and leaving the woman's office. What are you going to tell Kakashi's former gen in Team 7? Said Jiraiya knowing how they would react when hearing Kakashi was dead. The truth. I also want you working with Sasuke to help him achieve the same kind of level of Sharingan Kakashi had so he can duplicate that technique to use on Ulquiorra. If it's aimed just right, we can kill him and put an end to this nightmare, said Tsunade as she saw Jiraiya shake his head no and was shocked he was defying her command. No. I'm not training the Uchiha, said Jiraiya simply. What? Why? Said Tsunade seeing Jiraiya let out an empty laugh. You don't get it, do you? I could train the Uchiha in everything I know and it wouldn't be enough. It would never be enough. Do you remember what Ulquiorra told me, right? He was holding back a great deal of his power Tsunade. He was holding back and yet the man unleashed powers that defy all logic. Both Ma and Pa were practically begging me in whispered voices to leave him alone when I went into sage mode. Can you imagine what would happen if he unleashed more of it? Said Jiraiya seeing Tsunade staring back. Did it ever occur to you that he might be lying? He also said his body couldn't be hurt and yet Ulquiorra lost his arm if only for a moment. So I'm betting the man's bluffing about holding back his so-called power. The kid has always been one to bluff and use the devil's luck to get out of scrapes. Nothing's changed when it comes to the brat, said Tsunade before Jiraiya slammed his hand on her desk in the hopes it would snap the woman out of such delusions. Wake up Tsunade. This foe is not Uzumaki Naruto. No form of Ulquiorra Schiffer is the kid we knew 3 years ago. Not physically. Not mentally. The only thing that the man has of Uzumaki Naruto are the memories and most of them are probably bad ones of him living here. Something that I keep reminding you was entirely our fault. Said Jiraiya as he just wanted the woman to understand the severity of their actions only for Tsunade to now get in his face with hers filled with anger and the Toad Sannin knew he was one breath away from getting his ass sent to the hospital with several bones broken for his efforts. Enough. You will prepare the Uchiha to fight Ulquiorra. This is not negotiable Jiraiya. You will do as you have been ordered. Said Tsunade seeing the frustration in the man's eyes. I'll try to make some effort considering I've never trained an Uchiha before so I need to do a skill assessment so I can figure out what to do. Are there any notes made by Kakashi on his secondary Sharingan level? Said Jiraiya finally knowing he wasn't going to win with this hard-headed woman. Maybe. Check his home to see if he has anything like that is lying around, said Tsunade seeing Jiraiya nod and surprisingly leave through the door rather than a window. Wave Country several days later. Are you sure we can't talk you into staying? Maybe we can help you get your emotions back. Or at least some of them anyway, said Tazuna with the rest of his family seeing Ulquiorra off from Wave. After killing the leaf shinobi around him, Rashi and Han had appeared with Tazuna's family after they had gone to tell them everything they knew regarding Ulquiorra's past life in being Uzumaki Naruto. The family didn't believe it at first, but when the Arrancar himself admitted it and spoke of things only Naruto could have known during the Wave mission, did they begin to come around. It wasn't long before Ulquiorra convinced them that he was once the long-dead hero of Wave Country and was hugged by Inari crying into his torso while calling him Big Brother the whole time. It made the Arrancar feel something, but it wasn't easy to define as memories flooded his mind of the past and the apparent happiness felt here in Wave with the people before heading back to Konoha. Back into his own personal hell. I cannot. Soon word will have reached others of me being here. Iwa, Konoha, and even the Akatsuki organization will come here to investigate further to see why I was here. Han and Rashi sadly cannot stay here in Wave Country any longer due to such threats since 2 of those threats are hunting them, said Ulquiorra as he had agreed to let them travel and follow him until they could find a safer location where they could be happy. We told you before Ulquiorra-sama, it is our honor to follow you and will continue to do so for as long as possible, said Han seeing Rashi nod in agreement. If it is what you desire. I'm finding it pointless in talking the 2 of you out of it since you obviously won't listen to me, said Ulquiorra before refocusing on the family he had come to care for in another lifetime. Be safe Ulquiorra. Know that this will always be your home should you wish to come back here, said Tsunami before hugging him as a mother would their own child. I understand, said Ulquiorra finding himself unfamiliar with this feeling from Uzumaki Naruto's memories since he never experienced this before. Ever. There will always be a seat for you, Han, and Rashi at my restaurant Ulquiorra-kun. Don't you ever forget that, said AM giving him a hug as well knowing the Arrancar needed it. I'll be sure to remember and so will the other 2. Especially you Han, said Ulquiorra knowing that Han had become quite taken with the woman. The taller of the 2 Jinchuriki formerly of Iwa blushed behind his mask-covered face at his name being mentioned and saw AM's face blush too. Ha! Not bad kid. You'll get some of your emotions back yet. said Tazuna, knowing it was a long road ahead of the Arrancar, but the old man was confident Ulquiorra would get them back and use them too. Maybe. Only time will tell. Come. We have to go, said Ulquiorra, giving a bow to his long-lost friends in Wave Country, and walked away. What do we do now, father? He needs more support, if only from an indirect standpoint, and punish the leaf at the same time, said Tsunami, seeing her father rubbing his chin in thought before snapping his fingers when the pre-verbal light bulb clicked on. I've got it. The Wave Daimyo practically turned the day of our freedom from Gedo into a national holiday. We tell him everything that Konoha did and he'll cut off all trade with Fire Country, said Tazuna, seeing his daughter raise an eyebrow at him. But how will that even help? Said Tsunami, seeing the glint in her father's eye akin to mischievousness. Simple. Our country's sudden ending of all trade with fire would get the attention of their daimyo, given the 3 years we started, and create a stir with the other countries too. If I recall correctly, the daimyos are getting together soon for a big fancy party in honor of a family member getting married and all that blue blood stuff. The Wave Daimyo can do it then, which in public will cause the others to ask questions to this action and can make it known just how Fire Country treats its heroes. Said Tazuna, seeing the others nod while trying to understand his idea. If I remember correctly, the daimyo of Spring called Naruto Kunihiro and made him an honorary citizen of her country, said AM, recalling what Naruto told her after the mission while eating at the ramen stand when in Konoha. See. Our actions will spur others to do the same. It will cause a devastating reaction that will cause the Fire Daimyo to perform a serious inquiry into what the Leaf has been up to when involving Naruto. With all this happening, Ulquiorra and the other two with him can move around without the leaf on their backs, said Tazuna excitedly while feeling like a young boy playing a strategy game he created with a friend years ago when bored. Who would have thought such a game would make him think like this now? Okage's office 1 week later. This is outrageous. Yelled Tsunade at one of the Fire Daimyo's 12 guardians, assigned to giving her a message from the man himself. The councils and clan head were practically terrified at hearing the news of Uzumaki Naruto still being alive. Many accused him of being the Kyuubi returned in a human-like body with seemingly inhuman powers while taking the name Ulquiorra Schiffer and soon went into ways of possibly killing it. Some suggested a trap where Jiraiya could seal the rancor into another child like before and then make sure they had this one locked away in a special prison cell they could make to keep such power at bay. When they went over Jiraiya's report about Hada Kakashi's Sharingan eye causing the temporary loss of the Arrancar's arm, they immediately demanded a way to replicate such a power be done with Sasuke's eyes and thus allow them a chance to defeat Ulquiorra. Sadly, it seemed Kakashi's Sharingan was unique in itself when using such a power like Uchiha Shiseisen's eyes had hypnotizing power and couldn't simply be duplicated. The Sharingan eyes, while mostly the same for everyone of the clan, had its only little quirks in the form of mutating power, which never passed down from parent to child due to such mutations being stable enough to happen, hence why there weren't any branch family members like the Hyuga did and why Sasuke's own power mutation didn't manifest. It needed a specific trigger to happen, but Kakashi didn't have any notes on the matter and thus leaving Sasuke back to square one with his eyes. Regardless, the Fire Daimyo has only recently become aware of what is going on as he was already growing concerned when you didn't respond to his message about why Suna has ended their alliance and had himself a heated argument with the Wind Daimyo. Not to mention Wave's Daimyo has announced he is cutting off trade with Fire Country, with Spring's Daimyo doing the same in regards to the dishonoring of one Uzumaki Naruto, said the Daimyo Guardian, seeing Tsunade's eyes narrow at the name. What about the brat? He's nothing special, said Tsunade while cursing the boy's name in her head for doing this to her. At first glance, one would assume so, but several places say otherwise and they were all the ones making complaints against the Leaf. Our information states he was a genin-ranked shinobi of Konoha who you have on official Leaf records being executed 3 years ago on charges of treason against the village and yet you have failed to answer the inquiry behind the charges with proof of such treason, said the Daimyo Guardian, seeing the female Hokage getting angrier with each passing second. I filed a report on the matter. Uzumaki Naruto severely injured Uchiha Sasuke to the point of near death, said Tsunade, keeping her explanation simple. Yes. The Fire Daimyo has read the report but he also seems to recall the one given by the Kazekage stating Uchiha Sasuke went rogue to join Orochimaru and the Leaf team he along with his siblings went to support were sent out to bring the traitorous boy back by means of excessive force if necessary. From what Sabaku no Gaara has informed in his report, Uzumaki Naruto suffered not one, but 2 Chidori attacks to the chest at the hands of Uchiha Sasuke during his fight and it is the opinion of the Fire Daimyo, after consulting the other guardians, that such a jutsu requires excessive force be returned, said the Daimyo Guardian, seeing Tsunade's hands tighten into fists. Uchiha Sasuke is our only means of having the Sharingan stay in the village and Rookie of the Year for his class. Uzumaki Naruto was the Kyuubi's Jinchuriki and was a failure at the Leaf Academy, said Tsunade, seeing the daimyo guardian shake his head. It doesn't matter. While Uchiha Sasuke had all the high marks in his class like you say, it was Uzumaki Naruto himself who did all the work on those missions to make sure they were accomplished and gained favor in those villages. From the reports the Fire Daimyo has read on these, Uchiha Sasuke has been the one given most of the credit for each them being a success, but the witnesses spoken to in our investigation regarding these missions contradict what's written down and thus has made the Fire Daimyo look incompetent with a great deal of egg on his face. He demands an explanation, and unless you can give him a good one when he comes here next week you will be replaced on his order, said the daimyo guardian with Tsunade looking irate. Who? There is no one in this village remotely qualified to replace me, said Tsunade seeing the man give her a raised eyebrow. Are you sure there isn't someone we haven't considered, Hokage-sama? Don't assume because your grandfather and granduncle founded this village means the Fire Daimyo won't replace you. They may not be physically as strong as you, but there are people the Fire Daimyo can trust to run this village as Hokage much better and more efficiently than you, said the daimyo guardian before leaving. And hearing Tsunade scream of anger while cursing Naruto's name in the process. With the rookies. We really screwed up, didn't we? Said Tenten in a depressed tone, while the others had different looks on their faces ranging from serious to afraid, and some even showing a form of arrogance. Yes. It is only logical we meet our end at his hands. We followed the Hokage's lead, even when wrong, and facing a former comrade with no love for us in his heart, said Shino, while seeing Hinata fidget a bit with worry. But not for the reason everyone thought it was. Troublesome. We took that mission to bring you back, Sasuke, and this is what happens, said Shikamaru, as he had failed to understand the reason for Tsunade's actions to Naruto, but went along with it on account for his only natural instinct as a Nara male to survive the female Hokage's wrath and stayed quiet. He won't win. He was a baka and loser then. Nothing's changed, said Sasuke arrogantly, while believing Ulquiorra wasn't as strong as he wanted people to believe. The fact Kakashi could cost the Rancor an arm meant something. There's no doubt about that, Sasuke. I can't wait to fight that abomination again myself. I'm going to show that freak of nature just what it means to cross an Inuzuka in a fight and get some payback for the Chunin exams, said Kiba smiling while thinking that Naruto just changed his name and was still just as weak as ever. And his killing of two S-class missing nin from the Akatsuki organization, Orochimaru, Kabuto, almost all the Anbu, and Hada Kakashi. Said Choji with a raised eyebrow. Luck. Plain and simple. Naruto was fated to die 3 years ago and will die again at our hands as Ulquiorra Schiffer, said Niji, while Tenten shook her head in disagreement. You're wrong, Niji. We're all going to die and there is nothing we can do to stop it, said Tenten, simply knowing that they had no chance of beating someone capable of killing so many S-class shinobi. Yes, there is. We are going to crush that monster and show him what it means to defy his superiors, said Sasuke, while looking forward to killing the inhuman abomination. No one seemed to notice Hinata silently walk away from them after having heard enough. But Ulquiorra, Han, and Rashi. The one Rancor and two Jinchuriki formerly of Iowa had made their way to the border connecting Fire Country to Lightning, with the intended destination being Kumo. Under normal circumstances, Ulquiorra would be in Kumo already, but his two new traveling companions had made that impossible, since they would not have been able to stomach the intense speed that came from him using Sanito, and most likely puke with each time it was used. The Rancor had wanted to experiment in using the Garganta too, but in truth the former Espada knew such a place would rip through Han and Rashi like dog feasting on a bone. The only reason it worked in taking Orihime away was because of her own spiritual energy mixed with his own to allow the passage into Hueco Mundo from the world of the living. In truth, the demonic chakra his two companions had may upset energy from properly solidifying and destroy them all in the process. Not something Ulquiorra wanted to happen anytime sooner ever for that matter, since he had too much to do while here. They were just about to cross into Kumo when Ulquiorra stopped and his eyes narrowed ever so slightly, though neither of the two behind him could see. What's wrong, Ulquiorra-sama? Said Han before he too sensed it, and so did Rashi. We have unwelcome company ahead, said Ulquiorra before he saw not one, not two, not three, but 4 members of the Akatsuki, and they were all looking directly at him. Ulquiorra Schiffer, I presume, said Uchiha Itachi, being the unspoken leader of the 4-man group. You presume correctly, Uchiha Itachi. The last time I saw you, it was roughly 3 years ago, and wished for me to come with you, said Ulquiorra Schiffer walking toward them while motioning his 2 companions to stay on guard where they were. So the rumors are true. You are really Uzumaki Naruto brought back to life, said Itachi, seeing Ulquiorra Schiffer raise an eyebrow at him. No. Uzumaki Naruto is dead. All that is left of that boy are his memories leading up to his death. Nothing more, said Ulquiorra while Kisame snickered for a second. Damn Itachi, this guy is just as emotionless as you and needs to get laid, said Kisame with Kakuzu laughing a bit too at that. Aiden was just watching Ulquiorra with interest. Quiet Kisame, said Itachi while staring at Ulquiorra. I assume you are here to not just capture or kill me, but rather you are here to go after the two behind me and take what does not belong to you, said Ulquiorra seeing Haiden bring out his scythe. How dare you? Jashin-sama will have your life. Said Haiden readying for battle. You can't kill him Haiden. We need to extract Kyuubi's power from him, said Itachi, as that was the order given by Pain to them after the Uchiha located the Arankar and had reported back the man was traveling with two Jinchuriki. You are under the assumption Kyuubi's power still exists in this body. It does not, said Ulquiorra simply. Then what happened to the Kyuubi? It should be back by now. Said Kakuzu seeing the Arankar raise an eyebrow at him. Kyuubi's spirit died with Uzumaki Naruto, as the Yondaime Hokage saw to that, but its power went to my new form and became my own when my soul entered Hueco Mundo to become a Vasto Lorde, said Ulquiorra seeing Itachi frown at him. A Vasto what now? Said Kisame frowning at the name. It's the highest rank a hollow can ever have, but truthfully such hollows of such a high rank are very rare, given how strong one really is, and after I became one of them, I was then turned into what stands before you as the fourth strongest of my kin that became just as I did, said Ulquiorra seeing worry and despair grow in their eyes. Bullshit. Said Kakuzu not believing the pale man's story for a second. You wish proof I am what I say I am. Look, said Ulquiorra opening his trench coat and revealing his hollow hole, where his heart was with opening easily showing it went out through the back. That shouldn't be possible, said Kisame whispering to Itachi, who silently agreed and saw Ulquiorra cover it up again. Tell me Itachi, are you proud of younger brother? Do you know it was through him that I no longer have a heart and do not feel emotions like the rest of you can? I could easily kill an entire village filled with men, women and children if I wanted to without so much as shedding a single tear. I would feel no regrets. No remorse. Absolutely nothing. Said Ulquiorra seeing Itachi flinch at him. You're bluffing. Said Haiden not wanting to believe someone like Ulquiorra didn't feel any emotions at all. You've forgotten already the price Rice Country has paid after I killed Orochimaru of the Sannin and his right-hand man Kabuto, said Ulquiorra, seeing the four members of the Akatsuki flinch when they came upon the destroyed landscape of Rice Country. Nonetheless, you will come with us and so will the two Jinchuriki behind you, said Itachi with Kisame grinning now with the hopes they would resist. No. They will not, said Ulquiorra walking towards them before vanishing in front of their eyes and then reappearing behind Haiden. He's fast. My Sharingan couldn't keep up at all, thought Itachi with wide eyes filled with shock, with the other Akatsuki members looking at the Arankar in the same way. I have gauged your powers. You are all weak, said Ulquiorra calmly while seeing Kisame getting angry by that statement. Weak? Weak. I'll show you weak. Said Kisame bringing Samehada out in all its glory and swung it down on Ulquiorra with all his strength. Only for the Arankar to sidestep it. Kisame tried to hit him again, but the former Espada dodged it easily as he knew it was child's play and would make the blue-skinned shark man even angrier. As this happened, Itachi tried to analyze Ulquiorra's movements with his Sharingan but found it impossible given the amount of speed the Arankar was using and was finding it disturbing that someone of Kisame's caliber as a swordsman was being made a fool out of by this man. Ulquiorra even jumped on top of Samehada unflinchingly before spin-kicking Kisame in the face while looking bored while doing it. Haiden tried to hit him with his scythe, but the Arankar stopped it with just one finger, broke it with that same finger, and then received a bullet to the chest to make the man fall down with a hole in it. Seeing the Jashin follower somehow still being alive, the Arankar decided to test something and activated the Garganta before throwing the man's body into the unstable pathway. As Ulquiorra suspected, the body thrown into it was torn apart with nothing left in less than a minute and the former Espada closed it since the others would not require such a method. Bikuzu tried his hand, but Ulquiorra kicked him away with enough force to crush 4 out of the 5 hearts in his chest from the pressure behind the kick. Seeing he was still alive, Ulquiorra expanded his sense of hearing to hear the heartbeat of the surviving heart before ripping the organ out in front of the man and turned slightly before he grabbed the spiky blade of Samehada with his bare hand. Impossible. He should be in pain, and yet this guy holds Samehada like it was made out of rubber. Thought Kisame before Ulquiorra moved the sword away and struck him in the face with his elbow. If he could do this to Aso Silithan, what could he do against someone like Madara? Thought Itachi with the Arankar now walking towards, but stopped when Kisame got up from the ground and snarled viciously at the pale-skinned boy. Don't you dare turn your back on me. Said Kisame raising his blade over his head to swing it down again, but was blocked in an instant by something long and metallic in the Arankar's hands. And it wasn't Kusanagi. Do not think because I drew my Zanpakuto that I considered you someone worthy of my attention. I just grew bored fighting such weak trash like yourself the way I have in the past, said Ulquiorra as he quickly disarmed Kisum, and his blade pierced the man in the heart before twisting the blade to further ensure the man could not recover from this. I need to flee, thought Itachi as he moved quickly to get away from Ulquiorra but now found Han and Rashi blocking him from escaping. You are not going anywhere, Uchiha Itachi, said Han while unleashing steam from his body and covered the area around them. You cannot stop me, said Itachi before a hand from behind grabbed him by the neck and squeezed hard. Your brother took my heart away from me when I died. I will now take something from him in return. His purpose, said Ulquiorra stabbing Itachi from behind and while forcing the man down to the ground, stared the man right in the eyes. Perhaps, but unlike with the others, I'll make you earn my death and slow you down to some degree. Tsukiyomi, said Itachi knowing before he died at Ulquiorra's hands, the Uchiha could at least weaken the Rancor and give his brother a fighting chance. Tsukiyomi realm. You were foolish to do this, Uchiha Itachi, said Ulquiorra casually while staring at the man in front of him. Perhaps, but I can't let you kill my little brother and the Akatsuki must continue on with its plan, regardless if I am there to help or not. For the next 72 hours, you are in my world that I control and bring about pain like no other has experienced, said Itachi before he commanded chains to bind Ulquiorra and produced a sword before thrusting it into the Rancor's gut. Only for the sword to break. This may be your realm for the next 72 hours, Uchiha Itachi, but there's some things even you cannot bend, and that is my ability to make my skin unbreakable to any weapon you wield, said Ulquiorra seeing Itachi frown before doing it again with another sword and got the same result. Interesting. If physical pain in this realm will not work, then perhaps memories from your past in being Uzumaki Naruto should be enough and bring you some form of pain, said Itachi, as he was about to do just that when the sound of a roar unlike anything he had ever heard before in his life echoed throughout the realm and made the hairs on the Uchiha's neck stand on end. As I said before, Itachi, you were foolish and now will pay the ultimate price by having your soul devoured by my hollow, said Ulquiorra, seeing his Vasto Lorde form before he became an Rancor appeared and grabbed the Uchiha by both his arms so the man could not flee. This shouldn't be possible. This is my realm. I control it, said Itachi, but found he could not break out of the Tsukiyomi and that Ulquiorra himself was free from his chains. It would appear you have been misinformed about this power of yours. You see, while this is somewhat your realm on account the power your eyes possess to manifest it, this place that the realm is created from just so happens to be within my mind and ultimately is mine to command. Devour him, said Ulquiorra at last to his Vasto Lorde, who opened its mouth and devoured the screaming Uchiha's form head to toe. The Noha Uchiha district. For all the things Uchiha Sasuke was, fearful was not one of them, despite parts of his track record saying otherwise and his past teammates knowing how he acted. The man's pride hated being fearful, which was why he always pushed himself to get stronger, and yet the feeling of uneasy fear was creeping up on him. He didn't like it. Not one bit. I will win against you, loser. I am an Uchiha, said Sasuke to himself while resting on his side as he tried to sleep. You're still as foolish as ever, Uchiha. Still thinking you can win just because you are an Uchiha, said Ulquiorra after appearing via Garganta and got the Uchiha out of bed in fighting stance. How did you get here? Said Sasuke wondering if he should flare his chakra to alert the shinobi patrolling in the village. You couldn't even beat me back then when I was Uzumaki Naruto. I even beat you when I died. What makes you think I'll lose now? Said Ulquiorra while ignoring the Uchiha's question. Answer me. How did you get in my house? Said Sasuke seeing Ulquiorra take his right hand out of his pocket and threw something small at him. When Sasuke got it, he froze in shock as it was a finger with a ring on it and it wasn't just any ring either. It was a ring worn by members of the Akatsuki, which each ring being different, but Sasuke had long since memorized the one Itachi wore and knew it would help identify his brother. Sasuke became shocked at the sight of this ring due to the fact this item in his hand attached to the bloody finger was Itachi's Akatsuki ring. In case you have yet to figure things out, your brother Uchiha Itachi is dead and that his killer is standing right of you, said Ulquiorra seeing Sasuke looking at the ring intently now, then up at him and back at the ring before he slowly began to breathe heavily. And then screamed out in horror at the sudden realization that his ambition to avenge the Uchiha clan had been taken from him. That this man, who was once Uzumaki Naruto, had robbed him, Uchiha Sasuke, the last loyal Uchiha of Konoha, any chance of killing his brother Uchiha Itachi and the Uchiha clan would forever weep in the afterlife of not being avenged by its final member. By the time Sasuke even focused on where Ulquiorra was, the man had left the same way he came in and left the mentally broken Uchiha to drown in his despair. Hyuga clan compound. Hinata-sama, it's time for dinner, said Neji knocking on his cousin's door and waited for a response from her. He received none. Frowning, Neji knocked yet again with the same result of not getting any kind of vocal response from Hinata and slowly opened the door. The light was off, which didn't make sense since it wasn't time for anyone to sleep and it was making him nervous. Seeing the bathroom light was off, Niji made his way out of the room and noticed a note had been placed on the bed addressed to him. Dear Niji. It has become quite apparent to me that the leaf is not what it once was since the days of the Yondaime Hokage, nor will be again. The people are arrogant. My friends either regret Naruto's death now or they are looking forward to killing him a second time once he returns to take his revenge. Something I believe he is entitled to do after we betrayed him 3 years ago for completing the you yourself were given to complete. If Naruto was to be executed for his completing it, then you should have spoken up and stated you wished to be executed with him. You didn't. None of the team assigned to bring back the Uchiha did nothing to save him. Even now, you do not think very highly of him whether he is Uzumaki Naruto or Ulquiorra Schiffer. I can no longer live in a village that is so hypocritical and refuses to admit making mistakes, knowing the only thing hurt was its pride. By the time you read this Niji, I will be gone from the village and seeking out Ulquiorra Schiffer in order to be with him. My place is with him. Not with you. Not with my sister. Not with our father. Not with the Hyuga clan. Not with Konoha. But with him. Always him. Goodbye Niji. Hyuga Hinata. Okami. Hiyashi-sama. Yelled Niji as he quickly ran out of Hinata's room and went to find his uncle before the man's eldest daughter got too far away from Konoha to track down. And prevent her from getting too close to Ulquiorra Schiffer for the Arankor to ignore. Chapter 7 Cloud 9. Ulquiorra knew by the tensing of the Kumo shinobi at the gate of the village, they knew just who he was and the 2 Jinchuriki behind him. The mere sight of his presence more than likely made the 2 gate guards shake in their combat boots, but the 2 Jinchuriki with the combined tail strength of Kyuubi no doubt made them soil their pants and were fearful of what the 3 would do to the village. I'm here to seek an audience with your Raikage, said Ulquiorra simply while stopping at the gate entrance, with the 2 guards shaking, though one nodded and quickly left to get their village leader. 5 minutes later. So you're the infamous Ulquiorra Schiffer, huh? The slayer of high-rank shinobi. By your reputation, I was expecting someone with more build and muscle, and not someone with a twig body, said the Raikage, who was exact opposite in every way physically to Ulquiorra and didn't look too impressed. Where Ulquiorra was of average height. The Raikage was tall. Where Ulquiorra was lean and slightly skinny. The Raikage had enough muscle mass to take down mountains. Skin color. Ulquiorra was pale and the Raikage a well-tanned brown. Same to you Raikage of Kumo. Given your reputation I heard when coming over here, I was expecting some honeststrunger, said Ulquiorra seeing the Raikage looking pissed at that statement. You got a lot of guts and some balls to say that to me punk. Even the 8 Tails knows not to do that after I took off one of its horns in battle before he was sealed into my little brother, said the Raikage seeing Ulquiorra raise an eyebrow. Well that is impressive for a human given how strong such creatures are, it's not enough to make me think twice about killing you right here and the village should I wish it, said Ulquiorra seeing the Raikage still having an angry look on his face. How do I know you're not going to do that now? Said the Raikage simply. If I had wanted to kill you and wipe out Kuma this conversation would not have lasted this long, said Ulquiorra seeing Killer Bee and Naiyujito appeared behind him ready to defend their Raikage. Like you did with the Tsuchikage in Iwa and then Rice Country after killing Orochimaru of the Sannin and Kabuto. Said the Raikage seeing Ulquiorra nod. Exactly. Also, on the way here, I killed Uchiha Itachi, Hoshigaki Kisame, Kakuzu, and Haiden of the Akatsuki organization. I believe they were on their way here for those 2, said Ulquiorra seeing the shock on their faces. Do you have proof of their deaths? Said the Raikage seeing Ulquiorra nod. We saw it happen, said Han with Rashi nodding. Dad and I have 2 of 4 Akatsuki rings for proof of the act. I gave Uchiha Sasuke his brother's ring to further bring him despair. Only fitting considering how through him did I lose my heart, said Ulquiorra seeing Naiyujito go a little green at that. Would you like to collect the bounty on them? If you do, I need some form of proof for the Uchiha's death and something concrete for the other one, said the Raikage seeing Ulquiorra nod in motion for Han to step forward with a sealing scroll. Will the Uchiha's head suffice? Along with Haiden's broken side. I also wish to collect on the bounty for Orochimaru and his assistant Kabuto, using the man's sword as proof, said Ulquiorra before revealing the Kusanagi blade to them while Rashi held up Haiden's broken weapon. This will do. Most definitely, said the Raikage seeing the head of Uchiha Itachi. I also wish to discuss a possible alliance with you for dealing with the other remaining Akatsuki members. They will come for your brother, the blonde one next to him, Han, Rashi, and the others for their master plan. We cannot allow such a thing to happen, said Ulquiorra seeing the Raikage look at him with a calculating gaze and then turned to let them in. Jinchuriki are not well liked in the world, but my brother is all the family I have left and could never abandon him to such a life. Yujito is also treated well here in Kumo, since my little brother would never forgive me if I gave him special treatment, while a fellow Jinchuriki was scorned for what she held, said the Raikage heading to his office with them following in behind him. And it clearly shows treating them with the respect they deserve has its benefits, said Ulquiorra, seeing the people of Kumo were being respectful to both B and Yujito. Yes. Sadly, we are an island unto ourselves when it comes to this policy and wish we could show the world how wrong they are with the way Jinchuriki are treated. The only remaining Jinchuriki left aside from the Kazukiage and Suna is the one in Taki, which holds the seven-tailed Jinchuriki and uses her like a damn guard dog. They don't even let her live in the village, and yet they make sure she stays just close enough so she can't run away through years of mental abuse, bringing about fear of the outside world should she abandon them. I've tried to send agents to the area where the girl is rumored to be, but they have failed to find and capture her so she can be brought back here to see the truth, said the Raikage, seeing Ulquiorra raise an eyebrow at him. That is most impressive, Raikage-sama. Something only a few would do in your position of power if they learned of such a thing about this girl, said Ulquiorra, as he was liking this place more and more with each passing moment. Thank you, Ulquiorra-sama. As for your alliance with me and Kumo, I would humbly accept it to combat them and protect those I care about in Kumo, said the Raikage, as he sat down in his office chair and moved the barbell he used for a paperweight when not working out to go through some more paperwork. I don't intend this alliance to be just our two sides. I wish to have others join to combat the Akatsuki and the other villages that persecuted their Jinchuriki, said Ulquiorra, seeing the Raikage nod in understanding. I figured you would, given how you saved Suna's Kazukiage, who is also a Jinchuriki, and then killed the Tsuchikage for treating his own like weapons. You won't find the two in Mist, as they aren't there anymore due to the Mizukage, who was one had been killed after the successful coup pull there and the other has gone missing before that. Sadly, he's been presumed dead. Most likely at the hands of the Akatsuki, I'm afraid, said the Raikage, as he could only imagine something like that happening to Yujito and his brother B. And it scared him more than it did pissing him off. Raikage-sama, I need a word with you, said a Chunin coming into the office and was hesitant to speak in front of Ulquiorra, Han, and Rashi. Speak. Said the Raikage simply, since keeping something from Ulquiorra was no doubt impossible at this point. Our scouts report a female Hyuga is near the Lightning Country border and from what they can determine it's a main family member, said the Chunin, seeing the man's eyes widen in surprise. Could it be? No. She wouldn't, thought Ulquiorra, hoping it wasn't Hinata. There's more. We intercepted information from one of our spies that she ran away from the Hyuga clan in Konoha, though the reason is still unknown. Several Chunin and Jounin have been dispatched to bring her back before facing charges, said the Chunin, as he saw Ulquiorra rise from his chair and open the garganta near the window. Where are you going, Ulquiorra-sama? Said Yujito while shivering at the sight of that dark place he was entering. I thought it would be obvious. I going to save what is left of my heart, said Ulquiorra before entering the garganta, while ignoring the shocked looks on their faces. With Hinata. You can't escape Hinata. Surrender and the Hokage will go easy on you, said Kiba with Shikamaru, Niji, Kurenai, and Asuma. No. My place is with Ulquiorra. I won't go back to a village that hates him even more than they did when he was still Naruto-kun, said Hinata as she prepared herself for battle and wasn't going down without a fight. Hinata, you have to understand, the Hokage has to do things we disagree with but must accept nonetheless and know every decision made is for the good of the village, said Kurenai, seeing Hinata surprisingly glare at her. When she orders the execution of someone you love, I highly doubt you'll be singing the same tune then and be in the same spot I am now, said Hinata, seeing Kurenai trying to combat her words but failing miserably, and the Hyuga knew she had the older woman beat. Regardless, you will be taken back, Hinata-sama, and you will be punished for this. Both the Hokage and the Hyuga clan will see to that, said Niji, as he now took several steps forward to fight her and teach his cousin a lesson. No. She will not be punished, said Ulquiorra, appearing out of the garganta and behind Hinata while staring at the group intently. Ulquiorra-kun, said Hinata as she saw him look from the leaf shinobi to her and saw the side of his lip twitch for a mere fraction of a second, that only by grace of having the Byakugan on at such close range did she even see it. Hello, Hinata-chan, said Ulquiorra before looking back at the others in front of him. How did you know where I was? Said Hinata as she didn't expect him to find her, and the fact he even came made the Hyuga woman's heart swell up. I was having a meeting with a Raikage in Kumo when a shinobi reported a spy in the leaf had informed him of you leaving Konoha with a capture team hunting you down, said Ulquiorra, seeing Niji tense up and glare at him. So you not only come back more of a monster than before, but you side with the village that cost me my father and shame my family, said Niji, seeing the Aranker raise an eyebrow at him. Coming from the man who tried to kill his own cousin out of anger and wounded pride 3 years ago at the Chunin preliminaries. Your actions then and now are very much like that of a mindless hollow, said Ulquiorra seeing Niji frown in confusion, and yet his anger seemed to increase. Shut your mouth. Hinata-sama has deserted the Hyuga clan and the Leaf village. She will be punished and there is nothing you can do to stop fate decreeing this will happen, said Niji before charging forward, while Ulquiorra simply took a few steps in front of Hinata, with his hands in his pocket. When Niji thrust his palm forward, Ulquiorra jumped slightly onto the back of the hand with the tip of his foot and kicked the Hyuga in the face with the other. The impact of the blow sent Niji flying back into Asuma, who had to put chakra into his feet to keep himself from falling over when catching the younger shinobi, and glared at the Arrancar. Shikamaru tried to use shadow possession on Ulquiorra, but he easily overpowered the move and grabbed a fist aimed at him by Asuma before squeezing the man's hand until the sound of it breaking was heard with the jounin crying out in pain. Ulquiorra then bent the arm at an odd angle, struck the Sarutobi with his free hand in the ribs, breaking quite a few of them, and the man's throat in his hands, before kicking Niji away when the Hyuga tried to strike out against him. Let him go. Said Kurenai having snuck behind him and grabbed Hinata before placing a kunai to her throat. Hey Kurenai-sensei. Said Hinata, as she couldn't believe her former sensei would do this and put out a weapon against her. I said let him go or I'll slice into Hinata's throat, said Kurenai seeing Ulquiorra look at her and then at Hinata. You would kill a former student. Just like that. Over him. Said Ulquiorra with a raised eyebrow while Kurenai's eyes narrowed. She's replaceable, said Kurenai seeing Ulquiorra look from her to Asuma and then back into her eyes. It's clear you care for this jounin more than you're willing to admit. Just how much does he mean to you? Said Ulquiorra seeing Kurenai once more press the kunai closer against Hinata's throat. Let him go or she dies. Said Kurenai seeing Ulquiorra look at Hinata before throwing Asuma into a nearby tree. Done. Now you let her go or I put a hole through your heart, said Ulquiorra seeing Kurenai smirk. Look at this. It seems you do have a weakness after all, said Kurenai, while Ulquiorra's eyes narrowed slightly. Last chance. Know that if you kill her everything you love will die before you do, said Ulquiorra seeing Kurenai going through hand signs, but a bullet to Asuma's arm made her stop and look in shock at the jounin now missing a limb. Bastard. Said Kurenai seeing Asuma crying out in pain. Judging from your one-handed hand signs, you weren't going to let Hinata go, and I had come to the immediate conclusion that you thought I was bluffing. Now you know that I'm not bluffing. The next attack goes through his heart. Let her go or he dies. If not him, then someone else on this little leaf team, if not all of them, and you will be the last to die, said Ulquiorra seeing before charging up another bullet to unleash on Asuma or Niji, should he feel like it. Snarling slightly, Kurenai released Hinata from her grip but tensed instantly when she realized Ulquiorra kept the strange attack ready to fire and wondered why that was. Then she noticed a something crawling almost unnoticeably towards Hinata and had to hide the smirk that wished to come out knowing victory was near. Or rather what she thought was victory until Ulquiorra fired his bala into the trees where Shikamaru had hidden himself and put a fist-size hole through his chest before the now dead leaf shinobi fell off the tree. Several strikes hit him from behind thanks to Niji as he never took his eyes off Kurenai, who now had hope rising in her heart for each strike the Hyuga prodigy hit him with. Your chakra points are now sealed Ulquiorra-san. It's over. Said Niji before striking the Arrancar in the exposed temple and expecting the man to fall. He did not. Instead, Ulquiorra grabbed Niji's hand by the wrist and broke that part of the Hyuga before breaking the arm connected to it. Turning slowly to the now in pain leaf shinobi, the two were now staring each other in the eyes and Niji at this point finally understood the severity of his situation. You're correct Hyuga Niji. It is over, said Ulquiorra before putting a hole into Niji's chest and threw him away into a tree where he slumped to the ground. Ed. How could you do that to Niji? He's Hinata's cousin. Said Kiba with Akamaru barking at him, but the look in Ulquiorra's eyes told the dog to shut up. She'll hate you now Baka. Said Kurenai as she was mixed between joyful and angry that Niji's death would destroy the Arrancar's relationship with Hinata. If Hinata wishes to hate me then so be it, said Ulquiorra knowing that was always a distinct possibility and looked at the Hyuga girl not meeting his eyes, while no doubt mourning the loss of her cousin. Atsuka. Said Kiba attacking Ulquiorra with Akamaru, but the Arrancar knocked each away easily and with the Inyazuka landing near Hinata. Demonic illusion. Tree binding death. Said Kurenai as she had enough of this man and put him in her genjutsu knowing nothing short of someone with a dojutsu was going to break out this. You really think this will actually help you kill me? Said Ulquiorra as he felt the tree wrap around him and Kurenai appear through it with a kunai in hand and looking at him hatefully. I know it will monster. Said Kurenai before moving the kunai to his throat, but before she could do anything, a strike from behind knocked the woman down and she saw the form of Hyuga Hinata there with the Byakugan active. I won't let you kill him. Said Hinata having come to the painful truth that all that was once pure in Konoha was dead or gone from it. Hinata would side with him. He killed your cousin Niji. Shikamaru is dead too. Asuma, Kiba and Akamaru are severely injured. Why? Said Kurenai seeing Hinata now scowling at her. Because he is everything to me. Just as I am to him. I chose Ulquiorra the moment I left the leaf. No hesitation and no turning back. You held a kunai to my throat and asked him to free your secret lover or you would kill me. He let me go, but you were going to use me against him and called me his weakness. I will never be his weakness. Never. Said Hinata feeling a fire in her body arise that she never thought possible after Naruto's initial death until now. I was bluffing. I would never hurt you Hinata-chan. My favorite student, said Kurenai, but Hinata wasn't buying it and walked away from the woman before Ulquiorra himself stood in her line of sight. Go back to the Leaf Village Kurenai. Tell your Hokage her time in this world is coming to an end and so are all the pawns she sends against me, said Ulquiorra before walking away from the Jounin before stopping and staring at Asuma, clutching his bleeding stump of an arm. No don't. Run Asuma. Said Kurenai seeing Ulquiorra form a single green ball of energy the size of a marble on the tip of his right finger. Zero, said Ulquiorra and put a hole in Asuma's chest. No. Yelled Kurenai as her secret lover was killed right before the woman's eyes and cried into the ground before slamming her fist into it. Ulquiorra blocked her out as he focused on Hinata and gently touched the Hyuga girl's face with care like she was made out of glass. She leaned into him, savoring the feeling of his touch and soon held him in her arms while slowly crying into his shirt. I'm ready to go now, said Hinata feeling a hand wrap around her body and soon felt the detachment of leaving the ground for the air. Ulquiorra was actually in the air, practically standing in the air like there was an invisible floor to stand and walk on though Hinata dare not let go. Looking up at him, Hinata was once again surprised to see the rancor smirk, which was an equivalent to a smile for him, and held her closer. So am I, let's go, said Ulquiorra into her ear as he slowly took the girl to Kumo and enjoyed the feeling her touch gave. How had he gone without feeling anything for so long? So many centuries passed since he had died, feeling emotions and the sensations the good ones gave him despite being rare. It felt right to be held by Hinata. Kumo Reikage's office. You really trust this guy? Don't you, said Yujito seeing Han nod and so did Rashi. We were going to be sent back to Iwa and be conditioned to serve the Tsuchikage into being mindless weapons. Ulquiorra-sama interfered, killed the Anbu team and told us to go to Wave Country to find happiness there. Sadly, Leaf Shinobi came there shortly after Ulquiorra-sama did to kill him and thus made us both targets for everyone else if we stayed, said Rashi seeing Yujito nod. Man, the Leaf is whack just like Iwa and should know better than to attack. If they were really smart they'd stop and think rather than jump and blink. It makes my head hurt and want to blurt my feelings into their dealings, said B before being hit by a paperweight. What have I told you about rapping? Said the Reikage angrily. Sorry A, but you know me. If I'm not rapping then I'm not Killer B, said B as he made the others sweat drop and shake their heads at him. Your way of speaking is disturbing, said Ulquiorra walking into the room with Hinata beside him. Is this the Hyuga girl that ran away from the Leaf? Said A as he could tell the girl was indeed one of stunning beauty and a Hyuga too that made him curse his age. Damn it. Her chest is bigger than mine, thought Yujito while the Nibi snickered at its jealous host. Yes. Her name is Hinata, said Ulquiorra seeing Han and Rashi surprisingly bow before Hinata. It is an honor Hinata-sama, said Han making Hinata become embarrassed at all this attention. Oh please, you don't have to bow. I'm not special, said Hinata not knowing why they would even bow to her in the first place. But you are. You bring Ulquiorra-sama happiness. That is enough for us, said Rashi before the two rose from their positions. You do realize this could spark a war with the Leaf just by having her here, said A as he knew such things happen for less and could get bloody real soon. Highly unlikely. The Leaf no longer has the necessary strength to oppose Kumo. Some of their most elite shinobi are dead and Suna is no longer allied with them with various political problems being rumored to have arisen around them, said Ulquiorra, seeing the man nod in agreement as he had heard that too and figured it had something to do with the Aranker's past life. Still, Kumo having 4 Jinchuriki within its walls, plus a Hyuga main family member, now will make several villages nervous and possibly forge an unlikely alliance against us, said A knowing the old phrase the enemy of my enemy is my friend could manifest itself. If that happens, I will help you deal with it and in exchange I request residency for all of us here in Kumo. However, should either Han or Rashi wish to leave the village once this is over you will let them. And you will not seek to prevent them from finding their own happiness in life outside of the village, said Ulquiorra seeing the Reikage nod. Done, said A well Yujito was a bit shocked he would agree so soon. Thank you Reikage-sama. Aside from Sabaku no Gara, you are the only other Kage I have come to respect and look forward to working with you in the near future, said Ulquiorra, bowing his head slightly before leaving the office with Han, Rashi and Hinata to find necessary dwellings until a more permanent residence could be made. Why did you agree so soon to his demands, Reikage-sama? Said Yujito, seeing B was in a bit of agreement with her. Yeah bro. You basically gave the green light with the word go. Said Killer B while scratching his head. Because it's better to be at the devil's side than be in his path, and I would rather not have Kumo in his line of sight should he wish to destroy it, said A, seeing Yujito nod in agreement at that concept since the Nibi was really scared of Ulquiorra. Really scared? That albino is strong like Rhino, said Killer B and was hit by a paperweight thrown by the Reikage. MITB. Stop your rapping. Yelled the Reikage, making everyone in the village sweat drop. Konoha Hokage's office 1 week later. Okage-sama, you need to cut back on the sake, said Shizune, knowing drinking this much was unhealthy even for the best medic nin in all the world. I'll cut back when I feel like it, Shizune. Now get out. Said Tsunade as she had just come back from the hospital, finished healing what was left of the injured team sent to bring back Hyuga Hinata, only to find that one Ulquiorra Schiffer had appeared and kill roughly half the team with the other half badly injured. The only positive thing it did was allow the woman to plead her case to stay as Hokage, as she had to convince the fire daimyo the threat Ulquiorra possessed to all the other villages and their countries if not handled properly. Something she had claimed was possible if allowed to stay as Hokage and prepare a plan with Uraya to take the ranker down. The fire daimyo wanted Tsunade, however, that if she failed just once in any plan made to stop Ulquiorra Schiffer, then the woman would be removed as Hokage of the Leaf and someone else with a more level-head mind taking her place. The situation is worse than you realized, Tsunade, said Jiraiya, seeing Tsunade glaring at him and almost threw her sake bottle at him. If it were empty. How so? Said Tsunade before taking a swig of the bottle's contents. Ulquiorra has joined Kumo. The 2 Jinchuriki from Iowa have decided to join too, so long as he's there, and just recently acquired Taki's Jinchuriki the same day he took out most of the captured team. The Jinchuriki, there was a girl named Fu who holds the 7-tailed demon inside her body and has instantly come to like Ulquiorra after he revealed to her that everything she was told about the outside world was a lie. According to one of my spies in Kumo, they have been dubbed as Frachian, and my spy tells me they're going to meet the female Mizukage soon for a possible alliance with Kumo, said Jiraiya, knowing what that could do should it happen and succeed. When? Where? Said Tsunade, knowing this could be their chance to strike. 3 days. The Reikage and Ulquiorra intend to meet with Mizukage Terumi Mei to discuss a means to combat the Akatsuki in Wave Country, given its current standing of neutrality, with the Wave Daimyo's blessing, provided they stay civil. The Spring Daimyo herself is going to be there, as she wants to see Ulquiorra herself and see just how much of him has changed from the blonde-haired gaki we all knew years ago. Though given Mist doesn't have any Jinchuriki anymore, I doubt they'll agree to such an alliance and wish to stabilize their village due to the aftermath of the civil war still taking its toll on them, said Jiraiya, seeing Tsunade thinking this over. We need to do something to make it seem like a trap, Jiraiya, said Tsunade, seeing her old teammate thinking about it but was coming up blank for ideas and didn't know how to turn potential allies into enemies. Or we could just leave it alone. I doubt Mist will want to make an alliance, Tsunade. If we interfere, it could give Mist a reason to turn its efforts on us and then they will sign such an alliance if just to destroy the Leaf, said Jiraiya, not wanting to stir up a hornet's nest. No. The fire daimyo wants me to nip this problem with Ulquiorra Schiffer in the bud and that's exactly what I'm going to do. You along with the Meisho guy, Rock Lee, Tenten and the other remaining Rookie 9 are going to go to that meeting place to turn those 2 villages against each other. Akatsuki will eventually react, weakening them further, and then we strike when the brat least expects it. Said Tsunade evilly while Jiraiya just sighed. He's too powerful. Even if you could get close to him, the others won't let you, and not to mention the majority of the power in Kumo now consists of almost all the remaining Jinchuriki in the elemental countries. The only one not in Kumo is in Suna, and he'd sooner kill an Leaf ambassador that walked into his village than hear a single offer we give him, said Jiraiya, seeing Tsunade glaring at him. Make it work, Jiraiya. I don't care how you do it. I don't care what it cost. I want that damn brat dead. Said Tsunade as she slammed her fist into the desk and when she emphasized the last word spoken. That's the problem, Tsunade. You don't care anymore. And that's what's going to destroy us all, thought Jiraiya, as it was bad enough he had to deal with the Uchiha currently in the hospital in the mental ward and Inoichi trying to get the brat out of his funk. Now he had to basically plan his own death. The new morning came in Kumo as the sun was shining into Ulquiorra's bedroom and the Arrancar couldn't remember the last time he slept so peacefully until now. If at all. Beside him, in his bed in the house he had acquired, was the snuggling form of Hyuga Hinata, and the content smile on her face made the former Espada realize the emptiness in his heart had been lessening ever since he had been around the woman. Silently examining his hollow hole, Ulquiorra realized it had decreased by half of its original size, and all within the short time of being with Hinata. He hadn't done it of course, as he didn't understand the dynamics of the whole love-making process, which was understandable, since he had just started to feel some of the necessary emotions for having a relationship. Hinata didn't mind, as she had her prayers answered in being with him, even if he wasn't the original version of the man she loved, and accepted him as Ulquiorra's schiffer. Is this what it means to be truly alive? Am I even closer to feeling remotely alive? Aizen Sama would know, but since he's not here to instruct, I must do things on my own and try to relearn what it means to feel again, thought Ulquiorra, while his hand was involuntarily stroking Hinata's hair and heard the woman moan slightly at the attention. A knock at the door made him stop as the person behind the bedroom door opened it to reveal the person was Taki's Jinchuriki Fu and now part of his newly created fraction. The green-haired girl was a tad envious of Hinata lying in the same bed as him. It was clear she wanted to show Ulquiorra her own appreciation, and the only way Fu could even think about showing it was through physical contact. Still, if there was one thing Fu had in spades, it was patience, and the green-haired seven-tailed Jinchuriki knew she would have to be patient in regards to Ulquiorra. She had been informed by both Han and Rashi of how the Arrancar came to be from what they knew from the man himself. Excuse me for my interruption, Ulquiorra-sama, but the Raikage requests your presence in his office within the hour and says it is important, said Fu, while trying not to look at the Arrancar's chest, which while not showing much muscles, was something she liked to stare at, and heard the Seven Tails kept saying that the Arrancar was a powerful entity that should be respected. Thank you, Fu. I'll be ready to meet the Raikage shortly, said Ulquiorra while trying to sound polite, which wasn't easy given his lack of emotions, and hoped the green-haired woman understood. Fu smiled before bowing and shutting the door. She really likes you, said Hinata in a mumbled voice. I know, said Ulquiorra while stroking Hinata's hair. You could start your own clan, Ulquiorra-kun. Have multiple wives. Said Hinata as she looked up at him and saw the raised eyebrow. I don't think I could handle that. Not yet anyway, said Ulquiorra seeing Hinata smile slightly and kiss his bare shoulder while placing a gentle hand over the hollow hole. You have plenty of time to decide. Just consider it. You deserve happiness, said Hinata while wishing she could heal the hole herself. Not even Hinata's love could fill the empty hole still there. All throughout Naruto's life, he was denied love in almost every form and died with such an intense emptiness. While Ulquiorra had told her that the hole had decreased, the Hyuga woman knew it would take more than her love to remove it and get the man to feel things again. I will, said Ulquiorra knowing he had to get ready to see the Raikage, but didn't want to ruin this time with Hinata, and even now she seemed to sense it. Go get ready to see the Raikage. I understand, said Hinata kissing his cheek and giving him room to move. I feel cold without you, said Ulquiorra, as if the sensation to feeling cold was new to him and probably was in a sense. Me too, said Hinata seeing him rise out of the bed to take a shower in the bathroom. I do not like this feeling, said Ulquiorra seeing Hinata smile at him with that knowing look of understanding in her eyes. It's not permanent. You know that, Ulquiorra-kun, said Hinata calmly knowing he had been having some difficulty dealing with this since they were together and realized this would take a lot of work to overcome a void in his heart. I know. Still, I don't think I'll ever get used to this and the feelings that comes with not being able to touch you, said Ulquiorra before entering the bathroom and shutting the door. Poor Ulquiorra-kun. Don't worry, your emotions and feelings will come back. I promise you. Thought Hinata as she didn't want him to suffer and needed to find a way for the man to express himself again like Naruto. Okay. Maybe not like Naruto, but better than the emotionless face of Ulquiorra's schiffer and the inability to feel anything at all. Raikage's office. You wanted to speak with me? Said Ulquiorra as he appeared via Garganta and ready to head for Wave in order to forge an alliance with Mist. Yes. I got another piece of information from Konoha, but I'm hesitant to act on it given it didn't come from one of my spies in the village and I feel your insight would help in my decision on how to handle this, said the Raikage seeing the Arrancar nod. What's the information and who provided it? Said Ulquiorra seeing the Raikage look uneasy at telling him. Basically, the information states that the Hokage, who I personally think has practically lost her damn mind, knows about the meeting with Mist you're going to have to discuss an alliance, and she knows everything. Names, location, time of the meeting, and every other detail needed to screw everything up for us. But that's not what worries me, said the Raikage seeing Ulquiorra raise an eyebrow at him. Who provided the information that our meeting was known to the Leaf? Said Ulquiorra seeing the Raikage's look of unease grow. The same person who told the loony Hokage of the meeting and the details behind it. Jiraiya of the Sannin, said the Raikage seeing Ulquiorra's eyes narrow for a second in thought. It's a bribe, said Ulquiorra seeing the Raikage raise an eyebrow. A bribe? I thought it was a threat by the Leaf to call off the meeting, said the Raikage, as he couldn't imagine it anything but a threat, and yet it was clear Ulquiorra thought otherwise. Yes. A bribe. It's not a threat from the Leaf. No. Tsunade would never let Jiraiya tell a rival village she knew something important that could be used against her rivals. This is a bribe from Jiraiya aimed at me. He wants to appease me so I don't kill him when I see my former godfather again like I did in Wave Country. To make up for past sins and to let sleeping dogs lie if you will, said Ulquiorra seeing the Raikage nod at hearing the man's explanation. What are you going to do? If Tsunade knows of the meeting, she's going to send every shinobi available and come at you with everything she's got, said the Raikage, as he saw Ulquiorra walking away to the Garganta, now reopened for his usage, and stopped to look back at the leader of Kumo. She can come at me with Kyuubi at her command. I will crush everything and everyone she sends against me. It will be as if I killed her children. All those Tsunade sends, I will lay down at her feet and watch the once proud woman fall to her knees in despair while she stares at her shaking hands that will be stained with the blood of the shinobi sent to their deaths, said Ulquiorra before entering the Garganta. Damn. Note to self. Do not provoke Ulquiorra shiver. Ever. Thought the Raikage with a shiver running down his spine, taking a good 15 minutes to stop. Wave Country Alliance meeting place. We've checked the area, Mizukage-sama. No enemies detected as of yet, said Ao seeing the red-haired woman nod. Good. Make sure nothing happens to the Spring Daimyo too. She's the witness to this meeting and her death will look bad on our village, said Terumi Mei as she awaited the arrival of the group from Kumo and saw the woman doing the same. You have nothing to worry about. Nothing bad will happen. He won't let it, said the Spring Daimyo firmly yet gently with a smile on her face. I still can't believe this Ulquiorra shiver was once Uzumaki Naruto. The description of the two are complete opposites, said the Mizukage, who decided not to mention the boy was declared dead and this pale-skinned man was very much alive. Yes. But with him, nothing is what it seems and the impossible becomes possible, said Koyuki smiled knowingly at the memory of the boy fighting against all odds against the enemy before him. The memories of the past were interrupted when Ulquiorra shiver appeared before them via Garganta before sitting down in a chair across from the Mizukage and ignoring the tense mist shinobi behind the Mizukage. He could tell the Spring Daimyo was happy to see him, yet sad to see the Arankor was not the energetic Uzumaki Naruto she knew, and realized that boy was indeed dead with this person before her being the pre-verbal shadow of himself. My apologies for being late. I will be the only one from Kumo attending this meeting in the name of the Raikage, said Ulquiorra seeing Koyuki nod, but Ao from Mist narrowed his seeable eye at him and didn't like the idea of this meeting not having the Raikage here in person. I assume you have proof that the Raikage has sent you on his behalf to this meeting, said Koyuki knowing unless such proof was produced immediately, the Arankor would be considered a threat and thus would have to be terminated. Yes, said Ulquiorra before producing the seal of the Raikage emblem, which was given to only a rare few to enforce his wishes in the cage's name, and all who had them were a reflection of the Raikage's overall beliefs in matters. In a nutshell. Everyone with that emblem had the man's trust. I recognize the seal. It's authentic, said the Mizukage, as she had one of her own and knew such things were near impossible to replicate. Very well. Then I call this meeting between Kumo and Mist to order. Ulquiorra shiver, you have the floor first, said Koyuki seeing Ulquiorra nod in acknowledgement. Thank you Spring Daimyo-sama. Mizukage-sama, as you no doubt know, the world has been spiraling into chaos and the drowning in its own blood. Innocent people unworthy of suffering are experiencing just that, while those that cause it are in the seats of power and use it to what they wish with a sense of invincibility. This can no longer be allowed, said Ulquiorra seeing the Mizukage nod in agreement since the situation in Mist had in fact calmed down, still had some rough edges to smooth out and keep things from once again spiraling out of control. Yes. But why seek us out? Mist is still recovering from the bloodline civil war and Kumo has the majority of the Jinchuriki in their corner. The Raikage doesn't need us to win any upcoming war with those that wishes to oppose him, said the Mizukage, as she was well aware of the power Kumo now possessed and had dwarfed the other villages by far. True, but the Raikage doesn't wish for Mist to be drawn into the war and on the losing side. Surely you realize that this alliance between Mist and Kumo doesn't happen, the other villages opposing him will offer you the same in order to combat us, and as you have already stated Mist is still recovering its own internal war. Said Ulquiorra seeing the woman nod at that since she was sure the villages would see Mist turning Kumo's offer down as a sign of others opposing the Raikage's soon found strength. You assume the other villages won't have enough power to oppose the Raikage, said the Mizukage, which Ulquiorra raised an eyebrow at and wondered if the Arankor was really deprived of emotions like the rumors say. You assume they do have the power. I assure you, the 5 Jinchuriki residing in Kumo are not the pre-verbal fangs the village has, and it's not just the other villages that need to be destroyed, said Ulquiorra seeing the red-haired woman frown. You are referring to the Akatsuki organization, said the Mizukage seeing the ranker nod his head. They seek to abduct and remove the demons from their hosts. That in turn kills the hosts themselves, and I cannot allow that. Jinchuriki are used only by villages to be weapons, then thrown or locked away before they seal the demon into another person years later for the cycle of abuse to continue. The Akatsuki wish to use the combined power of the demons to hold a blade to the world's throat and force it into submission under their rule. That's unacceptable, said Ulquiorra seeing the people around him become shocked by this news. I agree. Granted, my predecessor was a Jinchuriki, but there is evidence of him being manipulated by outside forces and was not the monster we believed him to be, said Mei, as she had found Yagura's journal, and upon reading it had seen the evidence of the man being manipulated by the words written in his journal. Whatever had forced him to become a monster had not stopped him from writing things down in his journal as a means for someone to fight this unseen puppeteer and prevent a repeat of history. For that to happen, Yagura had listed clues to the fiend in the journal, but it was heavy-coded, no doubt to prevent the wrong person from knowing what was really written in it and to keep the puppeteer from learning his or her puppet was secretly usurping his or her plans. There is also the distinct possibility that the Akatsuki organization have also acquired Mist secondary Jinchuriki, said Ulquiorra seeing Mei nod in agreement. We lost track of him sometime in the last 3 years. I fear he was the first to be taken by them. From what I've been hearing, you have been the main reason none of the others have been taken and killed over half of their top members, said Mei, seeing the ranker nod in agreement. And a former one that was the late Orochimaru, said Ulquiorra simply. Quite impressive, but we're getting off track of this meeting and I wish to know what exactly Mist gets out of this alliance with Kumo, said Mei wanting to get to the heart of the matter now with this proposal from the Reikage. An alliance with Kumo will provide Mist a means to be prosperous again, as trade can open up between countries, and there is also the ability to learn new things from Kumo, while the Mist shares a few things in return, said Ulquiorra, seeing the Mizukage nod in her head in consideration. I assume the things we share will be within reason, said the Mizukage seeing the man nod. Of course. What we share with each other will be weighed carefully to ensure what is given qualifies as fair, said Ulquiorra, knowing fair trade of shinobi arts would keep things from becoming violent and hostile. Hypothetically, if Mist were to join this alliance, who would we be opposing in terms of the major villages? Said Mei curiously. I will along with the Leaf Village and the minor village Taki being a distinct possibility, said Ulquiorra calmly. And Suna? Said the Mizukage. The Kazukiage and I are good friends. If anything, he'll join in this alliance and help us crush our enemies. I can tell you are not like the late Tsuchikage or the current Hokage for that matter when it comes to Jinchuriki. You have a level head on your shoulders and that is something I and the Reikage respect, said Ulquiorra as he would have continued further but stopped for a second and turned his head slightly. What is it? Said the Mizukage while Lao used his eye to scan the building and the area outside of it. Uninvited guests, said Ulquiorra sensing it was Leaf Shinobi and quite a lot of them this time. Leaf Shinobi? Said Ao well surprised at seeing so many. No doubt they plan to end this meeting with us all dead. And I mean everyone, said Ulquiorra rising from his chair. They wouldn't dare harm the spring daimyo, said the samurai guard protecting Koyuki on her right. Actually, given the mental state of their Hokage, they certainly would and they would make it look like the meeting didn't progress well with all sides drawing weapons. It makes spring country without a leader, Mist weakened to the point where anarchy will possibly destroy what stability the Mizukage has created and make Kumo out to be the villain to further discredit them, said Ulquiorra, leaving the room to engage the enemy. How do you know that? Said Mizukage seeing the ranker look back at her. Because that is what I would have done in their situation, said Ulquiorra before exiting the room and was soon outside where the horde of Leaf Shinobi had weapons drawn. Your time has come, monster. Soon you and your conspirators against the Leaf will die, said a Leaf Jounin with his sword at the ready. There are so many of you this time. Where is Jiraiya of the Sannin? Said Ulquiorra as he looked around and didn't find the man among the small army of Leaf Shinobi. You are unworthy of being in his presence much less fighting him, abomination, said another Leaf Shinobi of Chunin rank it seemed. I see. He is not here. How disappointing. When I was given such an attempted bribe, I was expecting him to show up and explain himself to me. Sadly that is not the case, said Ulquiorra before drawing his sword and held it lazily in his hands. Kill them all. Said the Jounin leading the group before the Leaf Shinobi around him charged forward to kill Ulquiorra and those inside the building. It never ceases to amaze me just how annoying trash can be until it's in your face with the horrible stench it creates, making you feel the utmost desire to throw up the contents of one's stomach, said Ulquiorra, as he cut through them with ease, and those he didn't slice through were destroyed by well-calculated bala attacks on shinobi that chose to go around him for the people inside. No doubt their deaths and his survival would spread rumors with such a scandal, bringing about more enemies against the former Espada. Ulquiorra Schiffer would have none of that. When it was over, every leaf shinobi was either dead or dying from the injuries they had sustained at the hands of the rancor, with the pale-skinned man sheathing his sword before walking over to the dying leader of this army. The nameless Jounin, who would soon be dead anyway, tried to put up a good front in spitting blood on Ulquiorra's shirt, but the former Espada actually caught the wad of blood mixed with saliva and smeared it across the leaf shinobi's face before picking up the scroll hanging at the man's hip. High priority. Mission objective. Kill everyone at secret meeting between Kumo and Mist. Make it appear to be two sides breaking down in negotiations and drew weapons. Pin the blame on Kumo for starting it and the slaying of the Spring Daimyo. Spare no one and leave no witnesses, even if they are citizens of Wave and their families. The Fokage, the councils, and clan heads of Konoha. Seeing the evidence needed to further bury the leaf into a much deeper hole, Ulquiorra returned to the meeting room and threw the scroll onto the table for the Mizukage to read before she handed it to the Spring Daimyo. The two women looked upset to say the least, as they did not like the idea of becoming expendable pawns to be used by another village, and the former Espada knew how they would react to this information. Ulquiorra-sama. I hereby speak for the Mist Village when I say you have my support and alliance with us in taking down the leaf along with any of her allies. Tell your Raikage that we look forward to aiding him against our common foes, said the Mizukage, as she was going to enjoy burning Konoha to the ground and teaching that blonde bitch of a Senju what happens when you cross a female Mizukage. I would also like to be a part of this alliance, Ulquiorra-sama. From what I just read in this scroll, I think it's clear the leaf needs to be destroyed and their Hokage brought to justice, said Koyuki, seeing Ulquiorra nod his head. I shall report to the Raikage of this news immediately and then return to provide you both with documents needed to solidify our alliance. I suggest you both return to your respective territories until I can produce the documentation in order to prevent another attempt on your lives, said Ulquiorra, bowing to them both and turned to leave. Ulquiorra-kun, wait, said Koyuki, seeing the man stop once again. Yes, said Ulquiorra, turning slightly to see him. What are you now? A hero? Or a villain? Said Koyuki, seeing him pause in thought. I am both and yet I am neither. I am simply Ulquiorra Schiffer, said Ulquiorra as he left the room to let them all digest this and stopped several feet outside of the building before turning to the tree where someone was watching him. That person descended to the ground to reveal herself to be Mitarashi Anko and Special Jounin of the Leaf. Is it true? Said Anko, walking towards him without fear. Is what true, Leaf Shinobi? Said Ulquiorra, well, a bit surprised the woman didn't go into a raged frenzy for killing so many of her comrades with their blood and bodies all lying on the ground around them. Did you kill Orochimaru? Kabuto too? That you took Kusanagi and still have it in your possession? Said Anko, seeing Ulquiorra nod. Yes. Why do you ask? Doesn't the sight of so many of your comrades dead make you feel angry? Desire to lash out at me? Said Ulquiorra, seeing Anko let out an empty laugh. You're kidding, right? These fools hated me. I was Orochimaru's first student and failed experiment for his curse seal. People saw me as the preverbal snake in the grass. That I would betray them, and so they made my life miserable from day fucking one. Said Anko with venom in her voice. I see. So why do you serve them? Said Ulquiorra, seeing Anko shrug slightly. I honestly don't know. I mean, where else can I go? If I run, they'll just hunt me down and then I'll be in even deeper shit when they bring me back to the Leaf, said Anko with Ulquiorra raising an eyebrow at her. Come with me to Kumo, said Ulquiorra, seeing Anko look like he had grown a second head. What? Said Anko, making sure she heard him correctly. Come with me to Kumo. I assure you they will be more respectful than the Leaf ever was, said Ulquiorra like it was the simplest thing in the world. You do realize the Hokage is going to lose her mind over this, said Anko, seeing the rancor show the briefest hints of a smirk on his face. I'm willing to be she already has, said Ulquiorra, knowing that if the woman wasn't already going crazy, then this would make her, and further bring even greater despair. Hokage's office days later. What? Yelled the Hokage, seeing Jiraiya shrivel up in front of her. Ulquiorra killed all the Leaf shinobi sent to stop the meeting and took Mitarashi Anko with him to Kumo. I barely survived the encounter, said Jiraiya, knowing his line, now embedded in the truth, was going to possibly bite him in the ass later, but considering how he had already betrayed Tsunade already, he might as well run with it and see how far things would go before she caught on. Damn him. Yelled Tsunade, as she could believe that little shit had done this to her and robbed the village of its second best interrogator. The only thing she couldn't get mad at was the remaining rookies, and their senseis had been pulled at the last minute from the mission by Jiraiya, since he felt they would be needed most in the village when the time came to fight Ulquiorra here. Tsunade hadn't been happy about that move by Jiraiya, but considering how things went with the loss of everyone fighting Ulquiorra on this mission, the Fire Daimyo would have had the Senju woman removed from this office and put some pencil-pushing fool in charge. It gets worse, Tsunade. The Mizukage not only agreed to the alliance with Kumo, but so did the Spring Daimyo, and so has the Kazekage of Suna, said Jiraiya, seeing Tsunade once again throw a temper tantrum in her office like a child being denied a favorite toy. Where do we stand with Iwa? Said Tsunade after calming down a bit. They're in this to the bitter end. The death of their beloved Tsuchikage has made the new one, the old man's granddaughter, has basically gotten everyone in Iwa to swear a blood oath to kill Ulquiorra and all those that side with him, said Jiraiya, seeing Tsunade was at least pleased with that piece of information. Good. I'm going to crush that brat if it's the last thing I do. Said Tsunade, seeing the man nod, but Jiraiya was mentally shaking his head and wondered how things got so far out of control. We betrayed him. Whether I help him now or not doesn't matter. I can at least find a way to pay a fraction of the debt I owe my godson, thought Jiraiya, knowing he would have to be careful that Tsunade didn't find out. Chapter 9 Akatsuki's Fall. I fear for your safety, said Konan, as she stared at Pain and saw him looking back with uncaring eyes that at one point had been filled with emotion-filled life. Your fear is noted, said Pain, while ignoring the look Konan was giving him. And you are ignoring it, said Konan calmly. Ulquiorra Schiffer cannot kill me, Konan. Itachi, Kisame, and the others may have fallen. But I won't, said Pain simply. What about me? Said Konan, seeing him look at her for a second. What about you? Said Pain, turning and seeing Konan stiffen as if struck before turning away to leave. You hurt her feelings, said Madara, appearing suddenly thanks to his eyes. Should I care? Said Pain before turning to face Madara. No. Though I am a bit surprised that you don't, considering the history between the two of you have together, said Madara, seeing Pain's eyes narrow. That was a different person. A different man in a different life altogether. Konan is just a member of this organization and serves her purpose well. Whether she lives after this even ends is not my concern. Why she thinks it would be I don't know and I don't care, said Pain, walking away from Madara. She won't. I'll make sure of that, thought Madara, knowing that when this was over, all the other members of the Akatsuki were dead and the Uchiha was the ruler of the entire world. As it was always meant to be. With Konan. Konan had collapsed onto the ground the moment she entered her private chambers, shut the door, and cried for the first time in many years since the death of Yahiko after being betrayed by Hanzo. Nagato had become Pain after that, using the Rinnegan to become the god that he was now and taking control of AIM from Hanzo to become its new ruler. Only now he's become the very thing we fought against, thought Konan, sadly knowing that everything they were doing now was hypocritical and knew Yahiko would frown upon them for falling this far. Your sadness is pathetic, said Ulquiorra, appearing in front of Konan via Garganta. To gloat before killing me? You wouldn't be the first to try, said Konan, glaring at the rancor before her. I don't gloat. I wouldn't know how, said Ulquiorra as he walked towards the woman until she was within arm's reach and saw the defiant look in her eyes. You're going to kill me no matter what I do. All I can do now is strike first and go down fighting, said Konan as she turned her hand into a razor-sharp sword and stabbed it at Ulquiorra's body with the tip of the weapon hitting the man's pale torso. And doing nothing to hurt him. I have been watching you for some time now, Konan. In fact, I have been watching all of the remaining Akatsuki members and found that out of all of them you are the only one that deserves mercy, said Ulquiorra, who wasn't even intimidated by her weapon and simply knocked it away with the paper flying everywhere while her hand returned to normal. I don't want any of your mercy or your pity. Kill me. Kill me and be done with it, said Konan as her eyes now closed and awaited for the strike from the former Espada that would cut her down to pieces. You would turn down an offer to join me and leave for Kumo? Or mist? Why? Said Ulquiorra, seeing the woman just glare at him. Because despite everything that has happened, I joined this organization out of love for someone precious to me, and if I left no it would insulting to his spirit, said Konan as she saw Ulquiorra looking at her with that emotionless stare and it infuriated the woman to no end. I see. And nothing I say could change your mind. Said Ulquiorra, seeing the woman just shake her head no to his question. Nothing, said Konan simply. It will be quick then. I will give you that much, said Ulquiorra, seeing the woman nod her head in understanding. I am ready, said Konan, knowing this would be her end, and soonly darkness filled her vision when she hit the ground. But Zetsu. The plant-like missing nin was always nervous, its two sides speaking indifferently than a normal person, as the white side would say one thing and the dark side would speak of something else in a different voice. The man was two members in one, as Pain had seen fit name him, and became the Akatsuki's key spy throughout the elemental countries due to his means of traveling to different locations throughout the world. You sense it too? Said the white Zetsu nervously. Of course I do, Baka. He's here. We should warn the others. Said the black Zetsu, as he knew the organization's survival was paramount to warning the others of Ulquiora's arrival and to properly defend themselves. You are too late, said Ulquiorra appearing behind the missing nin and slashed his head clean off with his Zanpakuto. Without another word, Ulquiorra vanished via Sanito and went to hunt down the other two remaining members. With pain. Nagato, the real Nagato, also known throughout the elemental countries as Pain, sat on his throne and frowned with closed eyes when he sensed Zetsu's life force come to a very abrupt end. Madara was still on the opposite side of the base, and the Rinnegan user knew he would have known if the Uchiha had suddenly decided to just kill the key spy for the Akatsuki organization. Something is wrong. Something is very wrong, said Pain as he tried to sense Konan, but found himself unable to, and that made him even more worried. She was his protector. His shield. His last line of defense to prevent anyone from getting near him. You have no idea, said Ulquiorra appearing from the shadows of the dark room and stared at the man behind the bodies. So you've come to kill me like the others. You would challenge a god. Said Pain as he summoned all of his 6 paths and they were ready to fight for their master. You are no god, said Ulquiorra before covering the room in thick spiritual pressure just to prove his point. This wants to said Pain as he tried to move his 6 paths but found all of them were unresponsive and kept trying to fight this intense feeling of dread. I already have. Once I kill you, Uchiha Madara will soon follow and then everyone else that deserves to die will in facti. Said Ulquiorra before destroying the 6 paths with ease and then pointed a single finger at the extremely skinny man. The Omagod. Said Pain defiantly at Ulquiorra. Hardly. You don't even classify as a demigod or even a fraction of a god. Zero. Said Ulquiorra as he destroyed the man into nothing and walked away. Only to encounter the form of Uchiha Madara who had removed his swirling mask and now donned his classic blood-red samurai armor he wore when fighting the Shodaime. So the Kyuubi Jinchuriki graces me with his presence and in his new form, said Madara drawing his sword while Ulquiorra just looked at him with a bored expression. I'm not him anymore. You can thank Konoha for that, said Ulquiorra seeing Madara give him an amused smile. Yes, I heard. Though why you are coming after the Akatsuki is still a mystery to me. You should be a member and help us achieve our goal, said Madara while Ulquiorra shook his head no when the man said our goal he really meant my goal. You assume I hate only Konoha much less know what it means to hate. I have long since lost my emotions and become empty inside. Konoha, Iwa, the Akatsuki, and of course you have made people suffer for personal ambition. Are you curious to know what it is that all three have in common? Said Ulquiorra seeing Madara still looking amused. Oh, by all means Ulquiorra-san, please tell me and reveal the truth, said Madara in an almost mocking manner. You are all spineless trash. Cowards at the lowest level for fearing something so trivial as death and judgment, said Ulquiorra seeing Madara's smile leave him and turn into a scowl. You know nothing, boy. Said Madara seeing Ulquiorra raise an eyebrow at him. I know enough. I know you fought the Shodaime Hokage for the right to be ruler of the village and was defeated in battle. I know you couldn't stand the shame of losing to him and decided that being Hokage wasn't enough. You wanted more. However, the villages were all strong and powerful to easily oppose you. So you decided to wait. You let the hand of time be your weapon, striking in key places to weaken each shinobi village, but the plan set in motion hit an obstacle in the form of the Yondaime Hokage himself and knew that the man could ruin everything, said Ulquiorra seeing Madara's eyes narrow. You know quite of information for someone who shouldn't, said Madara accusingly at the Arankar. Kyuubi told me some things went together. As for the rest, you were quite the blabbermouth to my parents while I was Uzumaki Naruto and didn't know when to stop your senseless gloating. The Kyuubi himself told me of your humiliating defeat at the hands of the Shodaime Hokage and he even laughed about it when we had conversations together. You are such a pathetic creature, Madara. The word trash doesn't even define you, said Ulquiorra seeing the man become infuriated at his words. You dare disrespect me? You should know your place, boy. I have lived for well over 100 years and I have more power in my finger than you do in your entire body, said Madara before he found himself hitting the floor from the spiritual pressure Ulquiorra had released upon him and unlike last time this was several times stronger. You mean this power? The same kind of power that has you at my mercy? I have lived far longer as Ulquiorra Schiffer than you have as Uchiha Madara. You see, Hueco Mundo is different in terms of time and space when compared to this world of the living. While it has been roughly 3 years since the death of Uzumaki Naruto, several hundred if not over 1,000 years have passed in that place I called home since my creation as a hollow of Vasto Lorde status before becoming an Arankar and then an Espada in Aizen Sama's army, said Ulquiorra before increasing the pressure more to prove his point and saw the Uchiha was practically suffocating under such power. This feeling. It's like I'm swim no. I'm drowning in water, but it feels thicker and more dense than anything I've ever felt before. He can't teleport. Thought Madara while trying to use his eyes ability, but found himself unable to, and found himself at the ever-emotionless looking Aranker's mercy. An oxymoron if you've ever heard one. Itachi also made the same mistake in underestimating me and paid the price of having his very soul devoured in the process when using his Sharingan. When that happened, I was able to see his memories, but I focused mostly on the ones of you, and the key part played in helping him kill the Uchiha clan. Itachi only went along with your little plan, knowing he would not live to see it happen, and believed that the violence would end one way or another, regardless of him being in this world to witness the event, said Ulquiorra, before increasing the pressure on Madara, so the man felt more weight on his body. And you think your actions and plans will bring peace? Fool. Jinchuriki will always be hated, wars will always be waged, and the cruelty the people of the world bring to it will never die, said Madara, seeing Ulquiorra surprisingly agree with him. I know. I am not blind or ignorant of that simple fact. But the world does need to slow down. Catch its breath. To sit down in order to see clearly. I will make that happen, said Ulquiorra before extending his hand, cutting his palm with his thumb, and formed the necessary attack to remove the Akatsuki off the map for good. This strange energy. It's the exact same kind of energy I sensed in Rice Country after it destroyed everything. Thought Madara trying to get free, but was still unable to use his teleportation ability, and only now truly understood the meaning of despair. Consider yourself lucky if not honored to see this high-level attack up close and to die from it, Uchiha Madara. Though the Leaf and Iwa will face a far worse version of this than you could possibly imagine. Grand Race Zero. Said Ulquiorra before firing his attack at the oldest Uchiha in the world. And ending him along with all of AIM in the process. It's ironic. The rain has finally stopped. Is that because of the attack he used? Or was it because the source of the rain was the Akatsuki like it was Hanzo? Thought Konan, as she had been watching on hands and knees before sensing Ulquiorra appear instantly behind her. Do you know why I spared you? Said Ulquiorra as he put a firm hand on the woman's shoulder and saw her look back at him. No. I don't know and I wish you had killed me, said Konan, seeing the man easily lift her up off the ground. I spared you because out of all the Akatsuki members you were the only one worthy of living. Your motives were purer than everyone else within the organization. Even when offered the chance to leave, you turned it down out of principle and integrity that kept it alive. The others did not. You looked at despair and was not afraid to meet your end at my hands, said Ulquiorra, seeing Konan was crying horribly, now knowing everything this place had been was lost to her. And what will happen to me now? Am I your prisoner? A slave? Said Konan, seeing Ulquiorra shake his head no. I do not keep prisoners or slaves. Go to Mist. They could use your help. They know what it means to suffer and could use your experience and how to endure it. They will grow stronger with your help, said Ulquiorra, seeing Konan look surprised by this. And the Mizukage will just let me in. Does she know I was a member of the Akatsuki? Said Konan, seeing the Aranker nod his head. I have already told the Mizukage to expect you, said Ulquiorra before opening the Garganta and walked into it. Don't expect me to thank you for this. Even if what you did is for the best, he can't just accept what has happened, said Konan, to see Ulquiorra look back at her for a second while the Garganta was closing. I don't expect you to thank me for this. What I expect is for you to survive, endure, and grow stronger from it, said Ulquiorra before vanishing from sight. Okage's office sometime later. Damn that baka. Said Tsunade as she slammed her fist on the desk after reading the report of AIM's destruction, and the destruction was eerily similar to how Rice Country met its own end. She had been busy trying to prepare a possibly strategy aimed at fighting Ulquiorra and his allies while sharing information with Iwa on how to defeat the Aranker. The planning was not showing much if any promise, and Iwa's temper was running short to a degree that it could rival the Hokage's own. Some things never change, you old hag, said Ulquiorra appearing via Garganta while seeing the Hokage rise from her chair ready to fight. Anbu? Said Tsunade before her guards appeared and surrounded the Aranker. Don't bother. I'm not here to fight, and we both know the loss of so many of your shinobi in such a short time will increase if they try here, said Ulquiorra, seeing one Anbu take one half step forward. Then why are you here? Said an Anbu from the Yamanaka clan. To see something for myself. I've heard rumors of the Hokage's sanity being put into question. For answer the rumors were correct, said Ulquiorra with a very small hint of amusement. How dare you? Kill him. Said Tsunade before the intense spiritual pressure Ulquiorra was known to unleash covered the room and made them all sink to the ground. Only this time, it was much thicker, like when he had unleashed it on Uchiha Madara and stared at the downed Hokage. Know this, Hokage of the Leaf. The time of the village's judgment is almost upon you. Do not bother sending people out of the village, for they will not get far. Do not try to beg for mercy from me, for I will show none, just as the village did to Uzumaki Naruto. You will know fear, pain, and above all things before you end despair, said Ulquiorra before he cut off the pressure and entered the garganta with the dimensional rift close around him. Tsunade-sama. Are you alright? Said Shizune running into the office after she had sensed what had happened in the room, but the spiritual pressure kept everyone in the tower completely immobilized and unable to do anything. I'm fine. Get out. Everyone get out. Now. Said Tsunade as she felt her wounded pride aching and her temper flaring. Somewhere in the village, Jiraiya shivered with his senses telling him to stay the hell away from Tsunade and decided to hide someplace safe. The center of the earth sounded nice this time of year. Chapter 10 True Despair. Kuritsuchi, the news Tsuchikage of Iwa frowned at the report in front of her as a scout had come running back to the village and looked deathly afraid. From what the shinobi had reported, it was good reason as Taki had fallen recently to outside forces. And not just any outside forces either. No. The village was destroyed by the allied forces of one Ulquiorra Schiffer, the seven-tailed Jinchuriki Fu, who was once the guardian of the village, and soon a forces led by Sabaku no Tamari. Most of the village itself was kept intact, as it was clear the resources around Taki alone could bring about a new form of prosperity to Suna with a freshwater source and the value it presented to Wind Country, given how most of it was desert. A large supply of water that seemed to never end was worthy more to Suna than gold, and Ulquiorra had agreed to let Taki be annexed into Wind, since such resources would only benefit them in the future. That was 3 days ago. First, highly skilled leaf shinobi meet their end, Orochimaru, Rice Country, then the Akatsuki organization is destroyed, aimed soon after, and now the village of Taki itself is lost. The hidden village of Kumo, Mist, and Suna are allied together to remove Iwa along with the leaf for our past transgressions. Spring Country has fallen in with them, as has Wave Country, and the majority of their firepower are the Jinchuriki themselves. Even then, they are nothing when compared to Ulquiorra Schiffer himself, as he could easily kill them all without batting an eyelash, and had proven was possible when killing the late Sandaime Tsuchikage right in front of her. All for the sake of those damn Jinchuriki Han and Rashi. Kuritsuchi knew it was in part to Ulquiorra's past life in being the Kyuubi's final Jinchuriki, but it was hardly fair to the rest of the elemental countries that they should suffer when things like this have been going on for years and no one had complained. Okay, maybe that wasn't true, as people had complained in the past, but they were in the minority, or were the Jinchuriki before measures had been taken to silence those voices. Funny how karma had turned things around so the shoe was on the other foot. Afraid? Said Ulquiorra as he appeared in front of the woman and scaring her almost out of the cage chair she sat on. You? Guards. Said Kuritsuchi with the Anbu arriving moments later with weapons drawn. Do all arrogant cages in power send their shinobi to their death so soon? And I thought the Hokujin Leaf was the only one losing her mind, said Ulquiorra seeing the female Tsuchikage quickly raised her hand to stop the Anbu from advancing. Why are you here? Said Kuritsuchi knowing there was a reason for the man being in her office and wanted to hear it. I wanted to know if you and Iwa were interested in surrendering. Said Ulquiorra seeing the Anbu tense and Kuritsuchi doing the same. Never. Every single Iwa shinobi and citizen will fight you and your allies to the last person capable of fighting. Said Kuritsuchi seeing Ulquiorra nod in understanding. He expected as much from her. Can't say I didn't try. Also, just so you know, Suna and Kumo are outside your walls on one side of the village, said Ulquiorra as the Garganta appeared behind him and several other smaller ones acting like TVs, open to reveal the troops to the Tsuchikage. What? Said Kuritsuchi in surprise. Yes. They are attacking from one side and I am attacking from the other, said Ulquiorra before he entered the Garganta and closed with the scenes he showed with them. Mobilize all our forces. Prepare to defend Iwa. Said Kuritsuchi, but even as she spoke those words, explosions rocked the village and soon the sound of fighting could be heard outside the tower. With the growing feeling of dread becoming even larger in the deepest regions of her gut, knowing this village had possibly seen its last sunrise. With Ulquiorra. The ranker looked down at Iwa, seeing the people rushing to defend their homes from the enemies outside the walls, and some even screaming in fear when they looked up to see him staring back down. Some called him the Angel of Death. Some called him the God of Judgment. He was neither. Ulquiorra Schiffer was just a man. A man that could kill with a strength that made the tailed beasts look like pansies, but a man nonetheless, and one with a purpose of removing one of the last remaining problems the elemental countries has at the moment. Slowly, Ulquiorra unsheathed his Zanpakuto, holding it lazily while staring at the people below as his allies fought Iwa, and he just continued to stare down at them while thoughts ran through his head. Did he really want to do this? To activate his Resurrection form for the first time since he became alive. To show everyone his terrifying transformation that would make children cry, women scream, and men falls to their knees in despair. Looking back on his life, as well as what Han and Rashi told him about their own well-being Jinchuriki absolutely. "Enclose Murcielago," said Ulquiorra before he transformed in a blast of black with green, outlined energy into his resurrection form with large bat-like wings. Below, people looked up in horror at seeing what Ulquiorra's Schiffer had become, as his coat covered him from his neck on down past his feet, his hollow mask moved from one side of his face to becoming a center helmet piece with horns in the center, and his hair was now longer with a wild appearance behind it. His eyes now had black streaks where it looked like he had been crying, and his fingernails lengthened to become almost like claws. In short, Ulquiorra's Schiffer looked like the angel of death, and he had his sights set on living up to that title by making an example out of Iowa. "I'm glad he's on our side," said Baki, as he saw Ulquiorra in his resurrection form, and would be lying if he said the rancor above didn't make him want to wet himself. "No shit. I'd rather face my brother back in his psychotic days than him, and that's saying something," said Kankuro, as he saw Ulquiorra's Schiffer descend down upon his section of the village and wondered if the rancor would ever become an enemy of Suna in the future. He hoped not. Many of Iowa's shinobi converged on Ulquiorra's position, throwing weapons, jutsus, and everything except the kitchen sink at him. It was clear they felt that with his death, the man's allies would retreat knowing they had killed their strongest powerhouse and make them all think twice about fighting Iowa. Sadly, if they thought Ulquiorra was incredibly strong before, then they found themselves practically fighting something out of Kami's own nightmares and were soon decimated like flies. Each hit Ulquiorra landed caused his enemies to explode almost immediately on contact as he ignored the jutsus and weapons thrown at him while focusing on close combat with his four limbs to destroy them all. They tried to bury him deep in the ground, hit him with spikes made of jagged-edged rank, and drop boulders on the Aranker's physical form in the hopes it would turn him into a blood smear. Sunito solved the burying problem, the jagged rock spikes broke on contact with his body and the boulders shattered on contact with his form. To further increase their despair, Ulquiorra used his javelin generation attack on them as he speared his enemies into building walls around him and the screams of pain from all his various victims echoing throughout the village. It wasn't long before the new female Tsuchikage appeared and was ready to fight him for Iowa's survival. "So you've come to die, I see," said Ulquiorra seeing Kuretsuchi with a sword at the ready to use. "I've come to kill you," said Kuretsuchi before charging forward, thrusting her blade at him with the intent of it piercing through his skull, but the Aranker merely caught the tip of the weapon with his fingers and held it there without even blinking. "That will prove difficult for you," said Ulquiorra before flicking the sword away and then dodging the next attempt that was soon followed by several more. Until finally, Ulquiorra has enough of the woman's attempts and shattered the sword with the back of his hand before grabbing the woman by the throat. He lifted the woman up into the air, giving her an almost appraising look, as if pondering over the very idea of letting the woman live and seek a life of solitude away from the shinobi lifestyle would be possible for her. That idea left when Kuretsuchi tried to stab him in the face with kunai. More accurately, she tried to stab him in one of his eyes, which under normal circumstance would have worked, but Ulquiorra's Schiffer was not normal, and thus the rules of metal piercing soft flesh did not apply. The kunai itself broke on impact with Ulquiorra frowning at the cage for being so stupid and lashing out against someone holding her very life in his hands. But, the Aranker reminded himself that this woman was someone who fought to the bitter end and not give up until death took her. But the flick of his wrist and snap of her neck it did. The rest of the fighting had ended soon after with the death of Iowa's Tsuchikage, as the people surrendered soon after word spread of the woman's death and the spoils of the village were divided up between them evenly. Scrolls, resources, clans, territory, and everything else was divided carefully under Ulquiorra's eyes, since both villages helping him in this attack deserved a fair share of the spoils. After the village was emptied, Ulquiorra in his resurrection form went into the air and pointed his right index finger at the empty place, with his power becoming extremely thick. Normally the Aranker wouldn't use this kind of zero attack, but given the fact the Leaf and the Hokage were no doubt witnessing this event in their own way, a statement of what was to come demanded such a thing be done. "Okay. What's he doing and I feel like crapping my pants," said Kankuro watching from a safe distance with everyone else. "Zero Skuras," said Ulquiorra before firing his zero that shot out of his finger with a black-colored beam with a thin green outline being unleashed on the empty village. "Ikami," said Baki, as he was in shock at seeing the destruction Ulquiorra had caused to what was once Iowa. "Okay. I just crapped my pants," said Kankuro before discreetly leaving the shinobi army to clean himself away from eyes that could use it as blackmail against him. Quite a few shinobi did the same. Days later. Iowa was destroyed. That fast. Impossible, said Tsunade, as she had allied with Iowa in order to combat Ulquiorra and his allies seemingly getting stronger by the second. Yeah. The guy apparently transformed, grew wings, bone-like helmet with horns, and after it was all over he blew the entire village away with a single attack. He whispered it, but the name of the attack was Zero Oscuras from what I have been told, and much worse than what he unleashed on Rice country, said Jiraiya, seeing Tsunade becoming more fearful at that news. We have to evacuate as many as we can from the leaf. Hide them in a secret location and prepare them with a means to one day take that damn brat down, said Tsunade, as she wasn't about to have the leaf meet the same death as Iwa and not have some kind of plan set in motion to kill Ulquiorra before rebuilding the leaf. Not possible. It's out on what we've done to Naruto. No one wants anything to do with us. None of the elemental countries will let anyone from Fire Country cross over into their territory, and the Fire Daimyo has basically decreed we're banned from relocating anyone out of the village. Even I'm banned from leaving Fire Country or the leaf for that matter, said Jiraiya, while seeing Tsunade slam her fist into the desk in anger. So we're supposed to die here? To just be exterminated? Like vermin? Said Tsunade as she glared at Jiraiya, and he just shrugged. What did you expect the people in the elemental countries currently in power of their own territories, Tsunade? They heard what we did to Naruto. The people here each have had enough of people like the ones in Taki, Iwa, and Leaf abusing Jinchuriki. Suna has long since abandoned the policy after Gaara became Kazekage, and Kumo changed things before that. What did you expect would happen when Naruto died? That those that cared about him would let us even get away with it? Said Jiraiya, seeing Tsunade glare at him. I don't care what those fools think. They are all the same. They care, are compassionate, and act like naive fools, thinking that they know better than people like me. I'm a Senju, I'm a Sannin, a shinobi, and I'm the Hokage of Konoha like my grandfather before me. I don't give a damn what those insignificant bakas think of Naruto. I will not be judged by such weak morons, said Tsunade, seeing Jiraiya run a hand through his long hair. You may be Hokage of Konoha for the moment, Tsunade, but you know damn well those people who cared about Naruto are not weak, and they certainly aren't morons. If we were true to the Sandame and Yondame's ways would realize that the weak morons are in fact us, said Jiraiya, seeing Tsunade had an almost insane look in her eyes. Almost insane look. How dare you call me weak? Get out. Get out. The next time I see you, it better be with Ulquiorra Schiffer's head in your hands, or I'll have your heart in mine, said Tsunade as she saw Jiraiya flinch, knowing he had pissed her off to the very brink, and wisely left the room. This is bad, Shizune. I know what you mean. It seems with each passing day, she gets worse, and I don't know how to handle it, said Jiraiya, seeing Shizune nod in agreement. I know. Truth be told, I wanted to leave Konoha after Naruto-kun died, but my heart just wasn't in it, and I knew Tsunade-sama would see it as a betrayal to her. She does not take such things lightly, said Shizune, knowing she had nowhere to go, and fleeing from the leaf would have been impossible. Tsunade would have seen to that. You can tell that to Ulquiorra when he gets here. Though don't hold your breath if he puts a hole in your chest like he did to most of his enemies, said Jiraiya, seeing Shizune shiver at that fact. Konoha front gates. I hate guard duty. Now more than ever, said one Chunin, who was feeling nervous for obvious reasons, and his partner was the same way. Same here. That Ulquiorra Schiffer guy could come out of nowhere and kill us without so much as blinking, said the second Leaf Chunin. Shut up. You'll jinx our shift, said the first Leaf Chunin, before seeing someone was walking towards them and went pale when they both saw who it was. Oh shit, said the second Leaf Chunin before the two hit the alarm and closed the gates to deny access. I told you not to jinx it, said the first Leaf Chunin. Hey, fuck you, said the second Leaf Chunin before Anbu arrived and they explained the situation. However, no sooner had the Anbu been told of the situation did the large doors become dented from the blow landed on them by Ulquiorra Schiffer and then go flying open on the second hit. The Arankar began walking casually into the Leaf Village, hands in his pockets and not intimidated in the slightest by the Leaf Shinobi swarming around him. I thank you for coming to me. I never liked hunting for trash. There is just no appeal to it, said Ulquiorra before using Sanito to appear in the middle of the swarm and easily destroyed them with few well-placed blows from his kicks he unleashed. Not once using his hands. Ulquiorra Schiffer, said Tsume, appearing with Hana, Kiba, and several others of her clan. Ah. The Inyazuka clan. How are you? Still doing your traditional fox hunts you enter in every year? I imagine it's not as fun anymore when the fox in question isn't an 6-year-old child just wanting something to eat, said Ulquiorra, seeing Tsume tense along with the other members of the clan. How do you remember that? Inoichi removed that from your mind, said Tsume, seeing Ulquiorra raise an eyebrow at her before raising his right hand to one of his eyes. Before removing it, much to their surprise. I never forgot. I remember everything. From my time as Uzumaki Naruto to what I am now. Do you want to see those memories? You and everyone around you needs to know my pain. Everyone needs to see things from point of view, said Ulquiorra before his eye dispersed into particles and covered the air around him, with the people soon screaming out in pain at seeing the Arankar's memories. Memories of his life as Uzumaki Naruto, seeing his abuse, his struggles, the hate, and the fact Uchiha Sasuke was not the saint they thought him to be. They saw the memories of Ulquiorra Schiffer, his service to Sasuke-san, the killing of human beings, and every single battle the Ranker fought. Oh Kami. Such pain. Such horror. Did we really do that to him? My mother, my clan, and the entire village. Thought Hana, as she had never joined in those hunts, but that didn't mean she was guilty by association, and saw those large green eyes were so empty inside. You really think that pathetic piece of trash could remove my memories? When I was Uzumaki Naruto, the Kyuubi made sure all my memories were duplicated in the event such a thing happened, and to ensure I never forgot the abuse of the leaf. I wanted to prove to everyone that they were wrong, but they couldn't stand the truth and would rather live a lie to lessen their guilt, said Ulquiorra, seeing Hana now shaking her head, crying, and trying to get the images out of her mind. I can't believe. You always told me he was a monster, but not once at once did he lash out, and yet you still denounced him. Naruto wasn't the monster you said he was, mother. You are. Said Hana, pointing at her own mother, and walked backwards into a wall. I know I was. We were. However, it doesn't give him the right to do this now and get his revenge, said Tsume, seeing Ulquiorra tilt his head to the side. You're such a hypocrite. Do you know the reason why your father ran away from your clan in Izuka, Hana? He ran because your mother threatened to kill him if he was ever seen defending me from mobs like the one Uzumaki Naruto was saved from when he was 7 years old, and denying her own revenge for the loss of her aunt during the Kyuubi's attack, said Ulquiorra, seeing Hana glaring now at her mother. I want nothing to do with you. I renounce myself from the Inuzuka clan. Said Hana before running off, with Kiba calling back to her. Hana. You turned her against the clan. Like you did with Hinata against Konoha. Said Kiba, seeing Ulquiorra shake his head and close his eyes. You have all done that yourself. I merely showed her the truth behind the actions of this village. It's not my fault her family is filled with arrogant trash, said Ulquiorra, before feeling the presence Nara Shikaku's shadow, trying to hold him in place and constrict his throat. You talk too much, boy, said Nara Shikaku, while trying to choke the Ranker with his shadow strangulation jutsu, but Ulquiorra wasn't budging and showed no signs of being in pain. Maybe. Did you enjoy my past memories too? Said Ulquiorra before sensing Yamanaka and Noichi to his right. Hardly. I don't care what they show. Your time is over. Said Noichi before using his mind shatter jutsu to attack the Ranker, but all it did was tilt the man's head to a slight fraction, and the former Espada turned his head to look at the shocked blonde. Surprised. You couldn't kill me with that when I was Uzumaki Naruto. What makes you think you can kill me with that jutsu now? Said Ulquiorra, seeing the man snarl at him before going for another jutsu, but froze when the Ranker pointed a finger at him and saw Shikaku struggling to hold him back. I can't stop him. Said Shikaku, seeing Choza expand his arms and fists to large sizes before bringing both limbs down on Ulquiorra, who caught them with one hand like they were nothing. You never could from the start. Zero. Said Ulquiorra as he fired a beam of energy at Inoichi and put a hole right through his chest where the heart would have been. Inoichi. Said Choza before crying out in pain at the sudden strike from Ulquiorra and knocking them away while breaking them in the process. Fool, said Ulquiorra before turning to face Shikaku, who had retracted his shadow and was taking several steps back. I guess this is checkmate, said Shikaku, seeing Ulquiorra turn his right hand into a fist. For you? Yes. Bala. Said Ulquiorra before firing his attack at Shikaku and continued walking away without even looking back. Making his way to the center of the village, Ulquiorra Schiffer found himself surrounded on all sides by shinobi of every rank, even the Uchiha was there, and of course Tsunade herself leading them with Jiraiya right beside her. Shizune wasn't with them, but the man sensed she was in the hospital and filled with regret for the actions of her teacher. You're going to die, brat. And this time you're going to stay dead. Said Tsunade, seeing Ulquiorra look from her to Jiraiya to the remaining rookies. Did you tell her yet, Jiraiya? Said Ulquiorra, ignoring Tsunade and focusing on the Toad Sannin in front of him. Tell me what? Said Tsunade, looking from the Aranker to Jiraiya, while the Toad Sannin became nervous. Your little ambush party in Wave Country when the alliance between Kumo and Mist was being made didn't work due to my ability to sense them. I was informed of the plot well in advance by the Raikage, and he got his information from one source by the name of Jiraiya the Toad Sannin, said Ulquiorra, seeing Tsunade glaring at him and clearly not believing his words. Liar. Said Tsunade, seeing Ulquiorra shrug slightly like it was immaterial to him. Believe what you want, old hag, but I never lie and find that the truth is the most painful weapon of all to use against you. Tell her, Iro Sennin. Tell her how you silently leaked out that information in order to bribe me for the forgiveness you desire and will never be given, said Ulquiorra, seeing Jiraiya looking nervous while Tsunade turned her head in his direction. Alright. I admit it. I told him because I want his forgiveness, Tsunade, and I'm not the only one. Several Jounin, Chunin, and the remaining rookies are guilt-ridden over what we did to Uzumaki Naruto in the past, said Jiraiya, as his voice was filled with regret and saw Ulquiorra draw his Zanpakuto. I'll kill you later. Right now I want this thing killed right now. Said Tsunade pointing at the Aranker. You do not regret hurting me when I was Uzumaki Naruto. Your godson. At all. Said Ulquiorra seeing the woman spit on the ground in front of her. My only regret is not coming back to Konoha sooner to kill you myself when you were still a damn baby. Said Tsunade while Jiraiya just winced. Oh yeah Tsunade. Like that's not going to make the situation worse, thought Jiraiya seeing Ulquiorra's eyes narrow slightly. I see. Search your hearts for what you all value the most. For I have come to take them from you and in every form such valuables could take shape. Enclose Mersai Lago. Said Ulquiorra before he transformed into his Resurrection form. Oh Kami. Thought Jiraiya sensing the intense power behind the transformation and yet sensed the man was just getting started. Consider this an honor. Not even I saw my second transformation, said Ulquiorra seeing everyone was shaking in fear at the sight of him. But it wasn't enough. Not nearly enough. You're bluffing. You couldn't possibly become even stronger than you already are. Said Sasuke in disbelief at the Aranker's words. You should at least know one thing about me by now, Chiha Sasuke. I don't bluff. Now you will feel true despair upon witnessing my second form and see what only a handful in life have ever witnessed. Resurrection. Segunda etapa. Said Ulquiorra before he was once again consumed in black energy with a green outline, which after vanishing seconds later had revealed the Aranker's terrifying form and the thickness of his already intense spiritual pressure, making his last statement of them feeling true despair becoming real when everyone around the former Espada fell to their knees. He's a monster. Thought Tsunade as Ulquiorra Schiffer walked towards her and gripped the woman by the throat before lifting her off the ground to look the woman dead in the eyes. You're a disgrace to your family, Senju Tsunade. You betrayed so many people and even now do not regret it in the slightest. Even though some of the people in the Leaf wish to redeem themselves for their past sins, I will not let them as they are too little too late and have no reason to grant any of you mercy, said Ulquiorra seeing Uchiha Sasuke glaring at him hatefully while trying to fight the despair the Aranker's spiritual pressure had created. And how exactly are you going to kill all of us? Said Sasuke trying to stand up but fell back down to his knees and could almost hear the grunt of annoyance from Ulquiorra at his question. Simple. I'm going to devour your souls. You will not exist anymore after today. Almost every single person in this village will have their souls sucked out and be digested within my body, said Ulquiorra seeing several people struggling to rise but were failing to do so and saw a fearful realization grip his former godmother's heart. I'm sorry. Don't this. Show mercy. Said Tsunade seeing Ulquiorra just blink once when looking at her. Naruto. I am not that human boy. I am not the naive child this village spent most of his childhood life making miserable for something that wasn't his fault. In your last breath, you say that you are sorry, but I know it is lie, and a pathetic one at that. As for mercy. There is no mercy in me to give people like you. I am despair in its purest form that you all had in creating through the boy's death. Now you will die too, only in the worst way possible, and without a means to see what lies beyond on the other side. Gonzui. Said Ulquiorra as he proceeded to suck the souls out of everyone around him and devour them into his body. With his task done, Ulquiorra then shot a Lanza del Relampago into the air to signal Kumo and missed waiting not far from the village to invade Konoha. The Leaf would not survive this invasion. Epilogue several years later. Ulquiorra smiled at his wife Hinata as she held their beautiful baby girl in her arms and saw the giggling child smile up at him. Yes, Ulquiorra had finally learned what it meant to have emotions after so long with the help of Hinata, Fu, Killer Bee, Gaara, and the people in Wave Country he came to visit every so often. After the fall of the Leaf, the remains of it were divided evenly among Kumo and Mist, with the latter of the two acquiring more in terms of clans to bulk up their shinobi forces. The village's jutsus, money, and whatever couldn't be nailed down was taken by the combined allied army once again under Ulquiorra's supervision. After the place was completely emptied out, the Aranker quickly obliterated the entire village, using his Zero Ascuras with a blast, destroying everything within Konoha above and below, with the secret root base, along with all its members also wiped out too. Of course Danzo had tried to use his Sharingan eyes mixed with the Shadame's bloodline in his hidden arm to escape, but Ulquiorra wouldn't let him and removed the man after the Aranker threw him into the Garganta. As for Kumo, they acquired the remnants of the Hyuga clan on the branch family side, as most of the main family was killed, with the exception of Hinata's sister Hanabi, who was currently in Mist with Konohamaru, after they married to rebuild the Hyuga clan there and start things over with a fresh start. Shizune had surrendered to Ulquiorra as she lay before him at his mercy before being taken to Mist, but in the past few years since being there had several apprentices who had gone out into the world and used their medical skills to help others in need. "What do we name her, Ulquiorra-kun?" said Hinata as she held their baby girl in her arms and the child filled with so much love. "Her name will be Orihime," said Ulquiorra as he gently brushed his finger against the newly named girl's cheek and the child loved it. "After that girl. The one who didn't fear you in the end," said Hinata as she saw him nod and knew the girl had started the process for Ulquiorra to understand the human heart. "Yes. How is Anko doing? I understand her mood has been less than pleasant since she began showing in her pregnancy," said Ulquiorra seeing Hinata smile, knowing that the man before her had a hand in that. "Along with Fu's too. Anko's doing okay given the circumstance. She still says it's going to be a boy and has threatened to cause you physical harm if told otherwise," said Hinata, knowing the woman was complaining each day about looking like a beached whale. "And Fu is acting in a similar fashion too, only she's saying twins," said Ulquiorra while trying to think up names for his offspring. "How's Han doing these days? I heard from AM in her letter she's pregnant and that the man is the father," said Hinata seeing Ulquiorra nod in agreement. "He is. The man loves his wife and child to death. Only a fool would come after him now," said Ulquiorra smiling more at his daughter falling asleep. "I still can't believe Rashi fell in love with the Mizukage. He's even starting his own clan with her, Conan, and just recently Shizune asked to be a part of it," said Hinata seeing the man nod. "They trusted me in bringing them the happiness they desired and I delivered on it like I promised," said Ulquiorra seeing Hinata nod in agreement. "That you did, Ulquiorra-kun. That you did," said Hinata smiling at her husband while looking at the man's chest where his hollow hole had been. The hole wasn't there anymore. Ulquiorra Schiffer now knew what it was like to have a heart. Fin. Omic number 1 How Mido Guy and Rock Lee died. Yosh. "We must stop Ulquiorra-san from achieving victory over the Leaf Guy sensei," said Lee with Guy nodding his head vigorously in agreement. "Yes Lee, we must. If I don't, I shall run 1,000 laps around Konoha while upside down and if I can't do that then I'll balance myself on a giant cube of ice using only my tongue," said Guy with Lee writing his words down. "And I will do the same. If I can't, then I will destroy 1,000 training posts with a single strike of my fist and if I can't do that then I'll clean out the Inyazuka kennels with a single feather plucked from a chicken," said Lee, while Guy just gushed at his attitude. "Lee. Ai-sensei. Lee. Ai-sensei." And on cue was the Jinjutsu with the sunrise and wave beach while they hugged. "Zero," said Ulquiorra as his blast disintegrated them both and the Ranker just kept on walking. That was the one Jinjutsu that could have possibly defeated Ulquiorra and they blow it. Energetic Baka's thought Kami shaking his head while seeing the pile of paperwork being caused by the Ranker's path of destruction before weeping. All the power in the universe and he had to do something stupid by creating paperwork. And Omic. Omic number 2 entering the Soul Society. Ulquiorra had lived a long-lasting life with his wives and his children until at last he died of old age. Hinata, Anko, and Fu had all died soon after with their children living happily in Kumo raising their children. As Ulquiorra along with the others reached the gate to enter Soul Society, the doors opened and the former Espada stopped with wide eyes at who was there to greet them. "Welcome to Soul Society. I'm your guide Kurosaki Ichigo," said Ichigo as he stared at Ulquiorra Schiffer and the pale-skinned man stared back. There was a lengthy silence. An echoing silence that lingered for several more seconds after that. "You?" yelled Ulquiorra and Ichigo at the same time while pointing a finger at each other. Before Ichigo fainted while Ulquiorra recovered with a smirk. "I win again Kurosaki Ichigo," said Ulquiorra before stepping over Ichigo and motioning the others to follow him in. "Never bet against a man who has the devil's luck in them twice over." And Omic. What if Naruto becomes a Vasto Lord? Bleach end here and thanks for watching my video till the end.